Time is 6:30 and the date is Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. Commissioner Jim Franklin is absent today. I'm going to take a roll call of the remaining members. I'm Kalina Vendetti, I'm here. Dot McFarlane.
Here.
Megan Hickey.
Here.
Marilyn Cuzzadoy.
Here.
And Brian Payne.
Here.
Thanks. Please note we're doing a hybrid meeting, and that's with both in-person and virtual attendance. So if a member of the virtual public would like to make comments during a public hearing, please use the raise hand function on Zoom, and you'll be assigned a speaking time. If you're listening in via telephone dial-in, press *9. That will raise your hand, and then press *6. That will unmute. This meeting's being recorded by the local scene, and we're very grateful, thank you. And a recording of this meeting will be posted on the local scene website as soon as they're able. Anyone intending to make an audio or a video recording of this meeting should notify me at this time. Great. The Kingston Conservation Commission is seeking a new member. Commissioners are responsible for protecting the town's natural resources, including through enforcement of state and local wetland protection laws. Those interested should reach out to the Conservation Department by calling 781-585-0537 or emailing Matt Pannella at mpanella@kingstonma.gov. That's MPENELLA@kingstonma.gov. Matt, would you brief us on what needs to be signed?
Sure, and just a note that we actually have all the members present tonight, so we don't need to do roll call votes for anything.
That's super.
We have invoices from W.B. Mason for office supplies, Real Worth Appraising and Consulting for the appraisal of 83 Wapping Road, and Amazon and W.B. Mason for field supplies for our intern's trail camera project. And we also have a reimbursement to myself for field supplies.
Great. Going to move on to action items. The first action item I have on the agenda is a public meeting to request the certificate of compliance for 114 Country Club Way. This was submitted by Brett Holmes of Environmental Consulting and Restoration, and this is in regards to orders of conditions issued to Kevin Tonsberg for construction of a single-family home and associated work within 100 feet of a wetland buffer zone. This applicant has agreed to continue the matter until April 22nd, 2026. I'll now reopen a public meeting to discuss the request for determination of applicability for 28 Rabbith Road. This was submitted by Stenbeck and Taylor on behalf of property owned by Frank Derico. And this is for proposed removal of hazard trees and treatment of invasive plants. Yeah.
Just 1 second, we didn't take a vote on continuing.
You need a motion to continue?
Do you need a motion to continue?
Yes.
Want to make a motion to continue?
I move that we continue that
Do we have a second?
to April 22nd.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thanks. Do you have any comments on Rabbith Road, Matt?
We did get a letter from the applicant's attorney. If you want to, we can have them present that now. It's on. Well, try turning it off and turning it back on. How's that? No? Lights on.
Want to use this one?
You got a portable? Yeah, you need yours.
I have another one. You can use that for now.
We have a sign-in sheet going over in the chair over there, if anybody wouldn't mind signing in when you get a chance. Yeah, I guess for now, I was saying that the applicant's attorney did submit more information. If we want, we can have them give a presentation first.
All right. Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Sure. This Ann Sobolewski on behalf of the applicant. So this is a request for determination of applicability. As originally submitted, it sought the removal of certain invasive vegetation, the removal of some dead and diseased trees, and we, through my submission at the end of December, added a request to mow the previously hydroseeded area. So there was some tree removal on this property, and as a result of that, the applicant revegetated an area and hydroseeded it. But the area in question was never anything other than a lawn area. It was not a naturally vegetated area, it was a lawn. My clients purchased their property in 1985. They've observed this area for over 41 years. We submitted some pictures, which I do have extra copies of if necessary. As you can see, this is the hydroseeded area that we would like to continue to mow in order to keep ticks down. That's the purpose of the request. It is and always has been a lawn. Prior to my client's purchase of the abutting property, they observed it, as I said, for 41 years. It was owned by the Stepolemskis, who also had a lawn in that area. They had a raised vegetable bed. This was not a naturally vegetated or naturally existing area. All we are looking to do here is to remove certain invasive vegetation, some dead and diseased trees, and to continue to mow the area in order to keep the ticks down. With respect to the dead and diseased trees, we have provided a statement from an arborist that they are in fact diseased or dead and present a risk to human health. And I can provide additional information or other copies if necessary.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from members of the commission? Matt, you want to give us the
Sure.
rundown?
This on now? Perfect. So I did review the packet and the pictures and everything that were sent, and states that a submission from the applicant's consultant to the conservation agent, myself, in June of 2024 acknowledges the presence of existing lawn turf in this area, and states that the existing lawn turf was not proposed to be removed in connection with the hydroseeding. But the plan of record for the restoration project showed an extensive hydroseeded area, and the detail states conservation seed mix already hand seeded and hydroseeded to be overseeded with Conservation Commission, I believe it says administrative or admin approved seed mix fall 2024. There is a small grass walk shown on the plan running through the hydroseeded area, and I'm not sure if maybe that's what the attorney was referring to there. At a site visit following the hydroseeding, the applicant's consultant pointed out that the hydroseeded area had been mowed and lamented that they need to overseed it. This was a difficult property for the enforcement process due to the placement of the two-track access driveway, and conservation posts were not mandated in this hydroseeded area. In retrospect, that may have helped avoid this situation. Like I said, I've reviewed the photos and aerials, sort of compared with everything that I had put together, and I don't see proof of the claims for the entire area being previously landscaped or previous lawn, other than it is obvious there was some lawn area behind the house, there was a raised vegetable garden, and there may have been gradual lawn encroachment over time through understory cutting, which wouldn't necessarily be legal from a wetlands protection sense depending on when it happened. So I don't think things are clear here from that perspective on this being an area that was already lawn. There was definitely clearing of an area that appeared to be somewhat or mostly in a natural state at the time. I think maybe the best chance for the applicant to prove that the area was not in a natural condition would be to have some sort of an overlay plan. So it's a little bit hard to compare some of this imagery, both the photos and the aerials. So if we had something maybe that compared the 2008 through 2016 aerial imagery, showing the outlines of that yard area, comparing that with what was shown in the restoration plan, and comparing to present conditions right now, then maybe the commission can make a more informed decision on that. And I think in some cases, somebody might look at this and say that this is ridiculous or splitting hairs because we're just talking about a little bit of lawn area, but we're talking about an area that's very close to Smelt Brook. And the work that happened there, obviously, went through enforcement already because, there was, when I first saw that, erosion gullies heading right down towards Smelt Brook. So I think it's an area that the commission should make sure that anything that happens over there goes through the right channels. Having said that, they're asking at this point now for permission to get that area, into a legally permitted landscape nature. They're just using, a pre-existing condition as a claim for why that should be allowed, and I'm not sure that flies from my perspective with the information we have in front of us. So I think the commission would need more information on that before considering that part of it. Let's see. I think it's feasible to say the historic lawn area could be mowed, but conversion of the entire area between the two properties to lawn is what happened. It wasn't permitted, and I don't believe that entire area was lawn in the past. We've already gone through some of the specifics on this in the past. I did recommend adding specifications on any stump grinding, that none was likely to be allowed between the driveway and Smelt Brook. Typically with hazard reduction trees, the commission's requiring some portion of bole to remain in place for habitat value and to reduce encroachment over time. We didn't have an update on that recommendation. Part of that is some of the species that were slated for being cut will regrow over time, therefore having the habitat, reestablish. That will not happen with white pines, but with red maple and some of the other species, they will eventually sucker and return back into habitat and eventually trees. So we did not get an update on that. As far as the invasives, I believe the commission gave verbal approval for hand removal of the kudzu last fall, and I did forward specific instructions from the Department of Ag Resources on how to properly remove it so it can't spread anywhere. So I don't know if we have an update on that, if it was removed, if it went to seed, but that should be discussed as well. And as far as the arborist letter, I just noted that I did receive it. I don't find it to be terribly specific. This updated letter contends that a certified arborist has confirmed that all of the trees proposed to be removed present a risk. And as far as I can tell, that's not necessarily an accurate statement. The letter does not specify a count, detail specific trees. It talks about some particular hazards there, but not at the level that we typically see when we're talking about removing this many trees for hazard. Having said that, this is an RDA, not an administrative review, so there's no threshold requiring that the removal be based on hazard reduction only. But again, because we're talking about some of these trees being right up to Smelt Brook, right on the banks or in a wetland, or very close to wetlands, then it shouldn't be taken lightly to remove trees just based on anything other than hazard reduction. So without having any sort of update on that, I would recommend a site visit with the Conservation Commission and the arborist where specific trees can be discussed, because it is a lot. I did walk the property with the applicant's representative months ago, and he showed me all the flags on the trees, and personally I felt that some of them were obvious hazards and some of them weren't. So I think it's good for the commission to assess those things.
Questions, sir?
May I
Did you want to
respond?
respond to that?
Yes, absolutely. So with respect to the arborist letter, the statement was made that we needed to get a letter from an arborist attesting to the fact that the trees which were proposed to be removed required removal. We have provided that. The letter is specific with respect to all of the trees that are proposed to be removed. He reviewed the plan, he reviewed the trees. We've provided that piece of information. With respect to the grassed area, my clients were not represented by counsel when the initial issue arose with respect to the tree removal. Had they known that there was going to be an issue with respect to the lawn area located between the property that they purchased in 1985 and the property that they purchased in 2020, an area that they have personally observed for over 41 years, they would have said in 2024 that the area was entirely grass. I have numerous photographs showing that it was a grassed area. To say now that they are prevented from mowing an area that was always used as a lawn by both them and their neighbor which they observed the use of for this extended period of time simply because the person they hired to prepare a restoration plan to address the tree removal designated a specific kind of turf, I don't believe is appropriate. You're allowed to maintain a lawn area. All they are asking for here is the ability to mow that area to keep the ticks down. I don't believe that this is something that should be taking an extensive amount of time. If the commission truly believes it is necessary for my clients to go and get an additional overlay plan in order to demonstrate that this area, this is the area in question, these are the trees that were removed, this is 30 Rayboat, this is the area that was hydroseeded, it was a lawn. I mean, I'm sure that we can go that additional extra hurdle to fully demonstrate to the satisfaction of the agent that what they're saying they observed for all that period of time is the facts. Then I suppose we can do that. But I really wish we would be able to advance this ball. It's not a lot. And my clients appreciate the pond. They appreciate preserving the pond. They've lived there that entire period of time. They just want to be able to reduce the number of ticks in that area that are getting on their dogs. They've had Lyme's disease repeatedly. We just don't believe that this should be as much of a project as it has become. But if on the recommendation of the agent, you'd like some additional information, you know, we can perhaps do that. We could even submit detailed affidavits describing the location of the lawn if the photographs are not sufficient for this commission.
Are there comments or questions from the commission?
Matt suggested a site walk. Is there an issue with doing that?
Do you have something to say? Can you can get up there? And
Come right up to the podium. Just identify yourself for the record.
I've lived in town for 62 years. My father was town council for 26 years. My mother was here for over 70 years. So I'm familiar with the town. I'm familiar with the boards. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. The amount of time that you've drawn this out. Matt Pinella telling you story after story. I know, yes, Matt Pinella, he's not been completely truthful with you since he started calling me back in 2021 because he wanted my property, okay? And then he wrote me letters, and he wanted to get rid of the abutters, and he wanted 40 Rabbit Road. And when he had an opportunity to go up there and drive on my property, the next thing we were getting a letter, a very vague letter, right? And I was taking care of my dying mother, so I wasn't here to even look at what was going on. I know the truth, Matt, okay? You let my neighbor, who had all critical habitat, he took hundreds of trees down.
To what's going on tonight?
Yeah, let's just talk
Well,
about
it
the
is
lawn and
because
the
I feel like
trees.
he's drawing
It's
this
not-
out.
it's not an
It's
attack on
like a
Matt's
personal
character.
vendetta. He's
let's
drawing
keep
this
it on
out for a
subject.
personal vendetta. You're talking about a section of lawn that's like 50 feet by 30 feet.
It matters. Environmentally, it matters.
Well, that's great. It does matter.
It does.
It does. But you know what? $200,000 later with all these trees put in there for what? For the ice storm that took down a few trees? I'm sorry. You know, we weren't there a lot, but we were allowed to clean up our property. Matt Pinella is like, that. I'm concerned that here's the person that you all told me, I've watched a number of your meetings, I've been here, listened to you, you're all volunteers. That's great. We appreciate all that. And then I heard that, you know, you don't really know a lot of the things, so you rely on Matt. Well, if Matt Pinella is telling you details that aren't accurate, that he's fabricating things in order to get things that he wants to you board members, then I would be annoyed too if you were a board member. He's not telling you the truth.
May I ask a
Yeah,
question?
I'd like to have
And the fact that those invasive species, it's the geese that have been up there for the last 30 years. It's
Thanks,
not-
Matt.
We didn't bring soil in, Matt.
I was hoping to ask a question of you, but I don't want to get into a back and forth trying to defend myself on this, so.
I would like to
That's
keep it on
up
subject
to
to
you.
what we're actually here for, so this meeting isn't a 4-hour meeting. Does anyone have any answers regarding the cat zoo that we asked to be removed? We can talk about that now.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
We had asked, and you had asked us to approve removal of invasive species. We approved that. We had asked it to be removed. Has that been done?
No, I don't believe it has been done.
Okay.
Anything else?
Are there plans to have that removed?
Yeah, it's all part of the same application process. So we were hoping that we could resolve the entire application and then commence the work on the property.
Well, we still haven't answered the question about the site walk. And again, some of us have not been out there, we haven't seen it, and perhaps we would be well-informed a little bit more if we got to see the site. Do you have an issue with that?
I think it's something that I'll have to discuss with my clients, and I'll respond to the commission after I've had the opportunity to do so.
Do we have sufficient information to make any substantive motion on this, or should we look for a motion to continue this so that we can clarify whether we need to go see?
I think having a site walk is informative. I think that's a pretty simple statement.
Can I speak to a little more to the letter?
Yep,
Sure.
please.
The arborist letter, because that's sort of what I was speaking to. The tree letter says that he'd been asked in his professional capacity to examine the trees at 28 Rabbit Road for both human and dwelling safety. Upon examination, I found many trees that were a hazard to the public. And then he goes on to describe specific types of hazards. But my point in this was that we're often very specific in tree removal when we ask for letters. And I don't believe that this letter specifies the way that that it was described in the most recent update letter. So that's why I think having a site visit with this arborist in attendance could clarify all of that. And then the commission understands whether all of these are really hazards and it's easy and it's done, or whether there are certain ones that they do not feel really are hazards, and those ones may be either removed from that or may allow the commission to make decisions such as leaving bowl in place like they typically do in a lot of these situations, or specifying no stump grinding, things like that. So I had planned on saying beforehand that I hope, the applicant and their attorney doesn't think that there's some sort of, bias on my part about this. This is not me attacking them. We look at every situation the same way. And in this situation, I don't think the commission has all the answers to make an informed decision on whether that grass area can be, approved to be lawn going forward, or whether all of these trees can be removed. So I think you need more information, and that's it.
Are there other members of the public who might want to weigh in on this? Anyone online?
Would we ask for input from our counsel, since he's here?
I'm not sure.
You can if you like.
You're welcome if you have input.
Yeah, I don't, in terms of from a legal perspective, not too much, because this is more fact-related items. Matt's been doing a great job of keeping me informed over the last few weeks on kind of the flow. I read Ann's letter, which I appreciate. I think there are some unanswered questions, as Matt has cast them. That's not a legal issue. It's an RDA. You don't have to grant it, ever. And if you're not satisfied that the work can go without a proper filing. That said, it's possible that the issue regarding the clearing could be resolved with more facts. I looked at a few photos that Matt provided in his update, and I'm assuming you have the updated notes as well. The 2021 imagery is pretty different than the 2023 imagery. So I can't sit here and say what was beneath those trees, what was lawn, what wasn't. I don't know if there's an answer to it, and maybe at the end of the day after a site walk, the commission feels it doesn't really matter, it's not really a problem, we can let some demarcated lawn go, and maybe you say no, you want to have some more revert back to more of a natural course, but it's clearly an open question to me. Factually, if I had to demonstrate the facts that just looking at the imagery, and I haven't been to the site the same way others have, what existed free the clearing and what exists now. It certainly seems like there was less lawn back then, but I can't tell from an overhead shot, really. So I think a site visit would be helpful and bring people together. It's just clearly some tension in here on this particular issue. I think facts are important. It's an RDA which is intended to kind of build bridges rather than something that's, you know, more contentious. I think with RDAs, we try and get people where they're going if we can, and maybe issue an RDA in part and maybe not in part. There's some good work that can be done here. I think some of that is underway, and some of it is well-intentioned, but it doesn't seem like all the facts are filled in from my perspective. But again, I'm not on the ground here doing this stuff, all of you are. So I don't see it so much as legal as it is giving you all the opportunity to create a more fulsome factual record.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else, Council?
Yes, I would just say that with respect to determining the extent of the previously existing lawn area, it's not really something you're going to be able to determine based on a site visit, because we're talking about an area that was hydroseeded in response to the Commission's request that that action be taken. In order to understand what the area was like from people who have seen it on the ground as opposed to looking at aerial photography, the best evidence of that is the evidence of my clients who've lived there and who've observed it. That said, I'm certainly not ruling out a site visit. I will talk to my clients about it. But to assume that by looking at a hydroseeded area, you're going to be able to say whether this was historically lawn or not, I just don't think that's going to be the case.
Can I ask, I guess, Jay, follow up on this then? I mean, standard wetlands permitting, burden of proof is on the applicant. I mean, if the applicant can't prove to the commission that the area was pre-existing lawn area or pre-existing landscaped area, then, they have to go forward with their filing requesting that it be converted anyways and meeting whatever, regulatory standards we have under WPA and KWPR. Beyond that, we really can't. And is there a threshold between, like you've seen on the aerial imagery, right? You have some pretty extensive tree cover around the time of the 2021 imagery. There could be grass underneath there. They've shown some photos that indicate that there was definitely grass on the property. It's hard for the commission to determine from what's been submitted what was lawn area, what was not. So from a regulatory standpoint, if the area was considered previous lawn or previous landscaped area, then it's obviously easier for the commission to say, yeah, this is fine. We can go forward, we can approve this. But without that information, they really can't. So let's say there's an area where there was, you have some intact canopy cover, but people have been walking around beneath it for years, and there's some semblance of lawn, there's some pine needles, and like that kind of area. Is there an actual cutoff for those types of things, or is everything always going to be this, a little bit of gray area between those things?
Well, I mean, I think there's gray area is kind of natural here. I think there's a few things there. Obviously, if you're not satisfied on an RDA is again intended to give some notice of some work you want to do and see if it impacts the wetland interests that that the WPA and your bylaw protect. So, and if you're comfortable with the work, then you give a negative, and it's fine. You could give a negative with conditions, which I still find weird after all these years of doing this. Or you can give a positive and have them do an NOI for this work. I think, and we emailed about this a little bit earlier, I think one thing to focus on, though, isn't so much how much square footage of lawn may have existed previously versus today. I think the thing to focus on is the value of that area vis-a-vis your bylaw and the Wetland Protection Act. So if some lawn has expanded, arguably it doesn't impact the wetland interest, and arguably it could. I don't have any familiarity with the site. My approach to these kinds of things, both as a lawyer and a former member of my own commission, is less about debating whether or not 20,000 square feet versus 15,000 square feet of lawn is looking at that site, understanding the wetland values that are impacted by work on that site, and working regulatorily in a way that protects those interests. And if, assuming the commission reaches the conclusion that more lawn exists now than existed then, and it impacts a wetland value, then I think you would go one way. If you say, okay, there's more lawn now, but it's been a somewhat disturbed area, even though there was more tree cover, and it's not really impacting the brook or any of the other wetland resource areas, then maybe you go with a negative with some conditions or something like that. So I like to be guided by the wetland interests in these things, to a point. Obviously, when we're talking about riverfront or valuable things, then there's some no-brainers that there's a positive or not. Here, where I'd rather, and I think everyone would rather, focus on the wetland values than a dispute over a few square feet. Now, I don't know if it's a few square feet. It could be a lot more than a few square feet. And all I have is a few aerials and a few old photos that indicate some disturbance and some non-disturbance. So that's the facts. But in terms of focusing on the prize, so to speak, I would let the wetlands be your guide on that a little bit as to whether or not to do a clean negative, clean positive, or negative with conditions. You have a few options. We like RDAs. They allow us to kind of move quickly through things, but sometimes they're not a great tool.
I think my recommendation, then I think would be the best way to go forward for everybody, would be, talk to your client. If we can do a site visit with the commission, ideally with the arborist present to just walk them through. We do that pretty frequently. I don't think the arborist would have a problem with showing up for something like that. That will take care of that portion of it. We've already discussed all the invasive plant portions of that. And I think it's in the applicant's best interest to treat the lawn portion of this, I don't want to say as though it were new, but rather than focus on that, well, this area was all lawn to begin with and we shouldn't need any of this, to focus on why it's okay for lawn to be there from the wetlands regulatory standpoint, and let the commission say yes, give them all the reasons that they need to say, yes, we can approve all of this together and be done with it.
All right. Well, I'll certainly talk that over with my clients.
Do you want to continue this for?
Can I hear a motion?
I didn't hear the last thing you said, I'm sorry.
Certainly. I'll certainly talk those issues over with my clients and we'll respond.
Okay, fine.
Can I?
So, what?
I have something to say too. I will say that, Matt, I've worked with 3 different people who've been our agents, and Matt is one of the nicest guys I've ever met. I think that what was said here today was not called for, and I'm sorry for that. The other thing I want to say is that if you have ticks, there are plants that you can plant that ticks don't like. A lot of herbs, you can just look it up online. It'll give you the plants. Marigolds is one of them. It might help to clear the lot a little bit.
If I could just respond to
It's just something
that.
to think about that's easy.
The issue here is that this area.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I don't know.
That
why.
microphone doesn't mic this room.
Yeah.
The issue here is that this is the area that was required to be revegetated. The dogs are going in this area and coming out with ticks.
Yeah. I
There's-
understand that.
Plants
I
are
understand
not.
that. Ticks are a problem. The weather's not cold enough to kill them in the winter, and we have them all year round. It is a problem. I'm just giving you a possible way to cut the number of ticks a little bit. They'll stay away from some of these really smelly herbs.
Yeah, but the dogs will still go in this particular grassed area where we can't plant any of
Can
those
you
herbs.
treat the dog?
Well, I'd like to hear a motion.
I would like to make a motion to continue this. Matt, do we have a date?
Nope.
Georgie?
Next one's the 28th. I don't know if 2 weeks is sufficient time.
So we'll make that motion while she's
I mean, do you think
Consulting with her
2 weeks, a
client.
month?
I would not think that would be a sufficient amount of
That's
time.
kind of what I
no.
was thinking. So let's say a month, would that,
So what would the date be?
what was it?
Make a motion to continue to February 11th.
No, I was making the motion.
Can-
That's all right.
I'm sorry. he's-
Sorry, let's just wait 1 second. and then
What are we
we can
going to
hear
do
what
with
they-
it?
March.
Can we speak for a few minutes with council and come back in?
I mean, we
No.
can just continue.
Well, we
I mean, we can
continue it,
continue
and they- right.
Yeah.
We're
for
not gonna
kind of
wait.
whatever amount of time
Somebody
you
make a
think
motion.
you
Why don't we
want.
make it
I
the
thought
first
I
meeting
needed
in
a
March?
Okay. March 11th, you said?
The 11th.
March
What
11th.
Oh,
Can I, we're just waiting on them to provide more information, correct?
More
I'm just waiting on the
information,
motion.
I made
coordinate
the
a site
motion to
visit.
continue.
Do I
I
have a
don't believe
second?
I heard a second, and that
Second.
was,
continue to what, though?
I was waiting for a date.
March
We didn't-
March 11th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion to continue this matter to March 11th, 2025, and it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
Great, we'll put this on for March 11th, and we will see you then. Thanks, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
What was the date we did for 114? April 22nd? Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was right in front of my
okay,
face.
you're all set. It's 7:05.
Um,
I'm going to reopen a hearing for the notice of intent for the proposed construction of a single-family home with a driveway, garage, deck, roof, water infiltration system, drinking water well, utilities, grading, and landscaping, all within 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetative wetland and the 200-foot riverfront area to an intermixed stream on Baker Avenue. So if we could have a briefing from you, Matt, that would be great.
Sure. I believe this is the third hearing on this. The second one was just to agree to peer review. So a lot of the specifics we've already gone through, and I will skip. I have reviewed Beals and Thomas's peer review report dated January 7th, 2026. There was a question on the stream and whether that could be perennial or intermittent or a particular type. And Beals and Thomas's report concurs that this is a type 2 intermittent stream, which would mean it has riverfront area only under our local wetlands protection bylaw and regulations, not WPA. The peer review report noted that the limit of work is not depicted correctly in that it is not highlighted orange, but also questions whether the limit of work is large enough given its proximity to the activities involved in the proposed construction. Beals and Thomas recommends the applicant evaluate whether additional construction phase impacts will result in additional encroachment into the buffer zone and update the limit of work line on the plan. The peer review report recommended the applicant depict both the existing and proposed tree lines on the plan as tree clearing appears to be likely. And it recommends that the plan legend be updated as plan sheets do not provide a line type for buffer zone or no disturbance zones. The legend should match the plan set and be in accordance with the bylaw requirements. And regarding the subsurface infiltration system proposed for future use, the peer review report notes 3 different sort of areas of information. First, it's unclear how this system was sized or what stormwater flows it is intended to receive. If it is not being installed as part of this project, Beals and Thomas recommends it be removed from the plans for clarity of the administrative record. If the intent is to install it, adequate information has not been provided. It's unclear whether the driveway would be installed and then impacted by a future project. Beals and Thomas recommends the applicant clarify intent, scope, and timeline. 2, it is unclear why the applicant provided a 2014 stormwater report for an abutting property. Beals and Thomas recommends the applicant clarify the intent of this documentation. 3, it does not appear that soil testing or confirmation of seasonal high groundwater has been documented for this project. They did specify that as a single-family house project, this is not subject to the state stormwater standards, but since we're seeing a specific stormwater feature installed that is not for this particular project, I think that would be appropriate. Beals and Thomas recommends the engineer of record confirm this information in order to show that the proposed stormwater feature would function properly over the long term. We did receive proof of abutter notification. So, my recommendation on this, the commission may wish to either request outstanding information based on the peer review and continue the hearing, or close the hearing and deny for a lack of information. That's all I got.
All right, is the applicant here?
I believe the applicant's online. I don't know if there's a representative.
Mr. Haney?
May I speak, Mr.
Please.
Chairman?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. We
Yeah,
can hear
may I
you.
speak? I'm Anthony Hayden, the trustee of the Baker Ave Trust, who owns this property here. I just want to comment on a couple things. We provided the information. It's in the stormwater report, the 153 pages. Everything's in there. It's got the sizes for the system, everything. So we provided that information. It's requested by the commission. We provided it. And the reason we're proposing the stormwater, this is an A&R lot, and the lot has an easement on the lot for the subdivision next door where we can put the drainage. And for us to develop this A&R lot, we have to put the drainage in. That's why it's proposed on here. We are coming back to you guys, if this gets approved, for the subdivision. But if you guys don't approve the drainage for the subdivision, it kills the subdivision. If you follow what I'm saying, then we have to go another route. So we did provide all the information. I mean, if you want us to revise the plan to put the orange line in there, we're happy to do that. I didn't see any requirements for trees in the regulations, because that's why I believe the engineer did not put that on the plan showing the tree coverage. But for the stormwater system, the report has all the data, how much gallons are going into where the water's coming from, how much gallons are going into the system, the sizing of the system. It has the water tables in there. So all that data is in there. It's in that 153-page report. So I just want to make sure the record's clear. We did provide the information that I think you're looking for, and I'm happy to discuss further if you have any questions.
Could you respond?
We do have Beals and Thomas representatives online if you do want to hear from them, but I believe part of it was that, the idea was to show what was going to be flowing into that particular stormwater system, and what they received was a stormwater plan from a 10-year-old subdivision plan. And I'm not sure that the information was there, that the intent was to build that, or that particular configuration could be built at this point. So I think that's part of why they had an issue with that. So it's up to the commission who they want to hear on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my other question is, if there seems to be a plan now where if this goes through, then a subdivision is coming next. Well, if this particular lot is crucial for that subdivision, then why isn't the commission reviewing the entire subdivision, including this lot? I don't understand why the commission has to review a lot now with a future stormwater system that our peer reviewer didn't feel they could properly review, when they could be reviewing the entire subdivision altogether.
Okay, so, you want to respond, Mr. Haney?
Yes, so this lot, it's an A&R lot, so it's not part of the subdivision. And the reason we did it this way is, the subdivision's already been approved by the planning board. And so it's an active subdivision, but we never got the order of condition from Conservation Commission. So what we have to do is figure out this drainage situation, because these are discretionary permits. You guys could deny us, and you have a lot of discretion here. And then we have to go down that road, deny us. So what our thought process is the reason we didn't come in with a full-blown subdivision, file a notice of intent for the full subdivision, was, one, this is a separate lot, it's an A&R lot, so why can't we get the order of condition for the single A&R lot, develop this lot, and then, which is separate than the subdivision, then come back to you guys for the subdivision? I don't see any reason why we can't do that. Our notice of intent was accepted, and it's my understanding, I think town council's on the line here, and they could probably opine on this. But the town council said, whatever we're proposing, we have a right to propose this stuff. And you got to tell me if the drainage for some reason does not meet your, bylaw or in regulation, or local bylaw, and local regulation, tell me. Tell us what the issues are here, because we don't want to waste your time with a subdivision if you guys will not approve the drainage for this A&R lot, which is critical for the subdivision, because the subdivision has an easement on it. And the calculations are in there. It's 153 pages, it has all the information, what the inflows are, you know, everything. All the calculations are in there. So we did provide all that information.
Okay.
Do you want to hear from Beals and Thomas, or do you want to hear from town council? In fairness, I don't think I briefed Jay on that this was going to be
I'd
heard
like to hear
today.
from
But I
Beals
know
and
that he's
Thomas.
had experience with some of this property before.
Can we hear from Bill Thomas?
Sure, I think we have Matt online from Beals and Thomas.
Yes, hi, good
Mr.
evening.
Cody.
Yeah, for the record, Matt Cody with Beals and Thomas.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Sure. So, yeah, so for the record, Matt Cody with Beals and Thomas. We're a peer review engineer on behalf of the commission for this project. So we are in receipt of this 153-page report. However, I mean, the system that's shown under the driveway doesn't appear to be modeled. Like the modeling in the data provided in that subdivision plan shows a surface basin and a couple other features that don't. I mean, it's just unclear to us how that relates to the subsurface system that's proposed for under the driveway. There just doesn't seem to be a correlation there. If that could be explained, I mean,
What do you say to that?
I mean, I guess my question for Jay would be from a procedural standpoint. I mean, not speaking to any future subdivision or any potential issue with whether certain areas here can be developed or not, and not wanting to, you know, affect the property owner's rights of being able to do whatever they have to do to file for whatever they need to work on their property. What's the commission's best choice of action right now with something like this? I mean, should the commission just be denying something like this for lack of information and let them come back with something that actually does spell all of this out so that we don't end up kicking this down the road 5 times? Or are we better off trying to do that?
So I'm aware of the subdivision. There's a long history here, obviously, but I'm not aware of these specific filings, so I don't know how involved this particular filing is in terms of what they're trying to do. I think it is possible for someone to go lot by lot or segregate this lot, and if there's wetlands on it, get whatever approval they need. If it, however, needs information because the wetland issues necessarily involve consideration of things that are off-site because they're influencing this, then it could be a situation where there's a lack of information.
That's part of the problem here, I think, is that you have what is essentially a single-family house lot NOI on what he says is an A&R lot, but it contains part of this, a future subdivision. It contains a large stormwater system subsurface that's part of something off-site that is likely to be an eventual subdivision, and the commission feels they don't have the ability to ensure that that's not going to be a problem for the wetlands on this site, because you don't have all the information from what's coming down there.
Then I think at least with respect to that feature, and I don't know if there's other wetland issues on the site that they're applying for in terms of just building this one structure on this one lot. It's possible that it could be a denial with respect to part of what they're proposing, especially if you need all the information from the off-site stuff. If there's other wetland issues, other work they're doing in a resource area that you could approve, I suppose you could do that. You're not required to. They have one application before you, and you're not required to separate things out. If you're not satisfied that you can fully assess the wetland impacts because of all the downstream or upstream activities that are happening, then it is a lack of sufficient information. And listening to Matt, it doesn't seem like he has nearly enough information with respect to at least that feature to give a learned opinion on it. And that to me is you follow the science there on that. I think it's pretty critical. If you can't make a call, you can't make a call. I mean, I think we can come up with hypotheticals where you could go lot by lot in many subdivisions if that's what they want to do. You know, people make their own strategy decisions on how they want to permit things, that's fine. But if they have multi-lot infrastructure and they want to approve it lot by lot, then that gets a little more difficult. And I think you could probably support whatever action you want to do. If it was a denial for lack of sufficient information, or even a strong conditional approval, which doesn't appear to be ready yet here based upon the lack of information, you could do that too.
Right, and I think real quick, just to give the commission information on this, and we did talk about this in the very first hearing, which was a long time ago at this point, but, you know, taking the stormwater feature straight outside of it, you know, we reviewed everything else in this filing. And I did note that, you know, there were 2 sections of KWPR that gave the commission a pretty broad ability to protect this area, especially in the riverfront area, of even a type 2 intermittent stream and within the buffer zone itself. And I noted that, you know, regardless of whether the future drainage system stays in the filing, I think the commission would want more information on the wetland values and interests provided by the stream and the associated DPW before making any decision, because this does propose significant development within the inner 100-foot local riverfront area. And, you know, there is the presumed significance of not only the inner 100, but the entire 200-foot area. So I think ultimately it was going to have to come down to the commission on whether they feel that, you know, the applicant has overcome, you know, those standards of KWPR that protect the buffer zone and protect. It's almost like in a lot of filings you default to, well, did it meet all of the minimum setback requirements? But that's not the only standard in KWPR. On certain properties, you have important buffer zones, important riverfront areas that should be protected in certain situations. So I just don't want to gloss over that when we're focusing heavily on what is obviously a really questionable part of this application in this subsurface infiltration system. But the filing itself for the development of this property is very close to the wetlands, and as Beals and Thomas pointed out, they questioned whether the limit of work was sufficient. I think the limit of work was designed to meet the minimum setback requirements of the local bylaw, but as to whether it's sufficient or not, then you end up running into enforcement issues and me having to really be on site frequently to make sure that they're really honoring that during construction. And then you talk about the post-construction phase. Somebody's going to live there. That's going to be somebody's yard. You know, and they're going to want as much yard space as they can have for their children, which we're already dealing with on Baker Ave on a different filing after the fact. So it's all things to think about. Dot down here.
I'm confused as to why you would put something that big that's important to a subdivision in a private yard. That doesn't make any sense to me. If it's underneath their driveway and something goes wrong, it needs to be repaired, you have to tear up their driveway. It just doesn't make sense to build it first on somebody else's yard. It should be done with a subdivision, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a legal person. It just, logic says to me that you don't build that there under somebody else's driveway, especially if that house is not part of the subdivision.
Matt, can you?
Yeah, I would say going further than that and tying it more into this commission's purview is, you know, I don't know what would be there for legal easements and agreements or whatever, but if somebody had to replace the driveway and a contractor did something wrong, then you're damaging that stormwater system. And the likely result of that is wetland impacts, is sedimentation of that brook and of that wetland system. So that's why the commission wants to review these things and have all the information to determine that. You have engineers on record that have stamped things that say that this isn't going to be a problem. You know, I've reviewed everything and there's not going to be any problem down the road. This can handle all of this water and it is going to be maintained in this way. And their stamp says that that's the truth, or they're risking their stamp on that rather than the commission just reviewing information and saying, okay.
Are there any members of the public who have comments or concerns they'd like to? Brian?
It's my opinion that the peer reviewer says that we don't have enough information to make a decision, then we should get more information. That's the purpose of having a peer review. I'm not a wetland scientist. I rely upon the peer reviewers to come in and provide us with that information. The applicant says, no, the information is there, and it's on the application's responsibility to show us that in a follow-up. So they can go point by point, but what the peer reviewer has said that we're missing, or more information we need, outline that for us so that we can understand it, and then we can have that decision. But our peer reviewer has said that we don't have enough information. The whole purpose of peer review is to get that feedback, and we shouldn't just dismiss it because the applicant says, no, it is in
It'll be
there.
okay, yeah. At the end of the day, our job is to be forward on protection. That's our responsibility, and I don't think we can ever dismiss that. And again, I don't feel we have adequate information. I have been concerned about this project from the very beginning. I do go all the way back to what Jay was referring, having seen so many iterations of this, and I don't feel we have information that would make me feel comfortable with this project.
Can we ask the applicant to respond to this, not at this moment, but to give us the additional, make it clear what we need to know and have them?
That's up to the commission. I think the commission only has two real viable options here. One is you deny the project, and they can do as they wish with that. They can make some different iteration of it and come back in the future, or with all of the information, obviously, or you continue it to allow them to come back with answers to all of these questions, and it's gonna have to go back to peer review again. So then we're gonna need to get another proposal from Beals and Thomas. We're gonna need another check. And I don't wanna come across like I'm trying to advocate for denial here, but we've lately, I feel like, filings that, to put it in strange terms, never go away. They're not approvable, and they're not, being denied. We're continuing and continuing and continuing. I'm constantly in my office trying to balance getting the information in, getting information to the commission on these things, and it's getting pretty frustrating to have a lot of these going simultaneously. So in a situation where we don't have the information, I'm always cognizant of the fact that they've already spent money on this, they've already spent money on peer review. I don't take that lightly, but in this situation, I think denial is probably the cleanest option for the commission, to just be done with it right now, because it's very clear that you don't have the information that you need. We can go forward and continue it for 3 months or something like that, and hope that the information comes back and the peer review process works itself out and you can make a more informed decision. But at this point, the peer review did the work of showing the commission that we don't have the information. So that's what we have.
Let me just ask Mr. Haney to have a last word on this. Mr. Haney, take off your,
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so, I just want to point out procedurally, I believe in your bylaw, you guys can't close the hearing if there's additional information that's sought. So, we just got this peer review the other day, and regarding the orange line of the plan, are you saying you can't make a decision because the work limit line is not orange? Is that what's the lack of information? Are you saying due to the fact that the trees aren't surveyed on the plan? Is that the issue? We need feedback here, because like I said, the stormwater report has the calculations. It's showing 942 cubic feet of water going into this recharge system. So I don't see why people are saying you don't have the information when the calculations are there. And you got to remember something here too, which is real important. We can't do anything with this recharge system that alters any wetland whatsoever. So hypothetically, if we did approve this and we charge it up and we had a blowout, that's a violation right there. So we can't do anything. We're coming back to you guys. It's just, we're trying to keep this thing simple, moving along. We spent a lot of money on this peer review, and for us to be denied for lack of information, I don't believe that's a proper route. I don't believe under your bylaw, it says you got to continue the hearing. If you're missing information, you can't close the hearing. So I don't believe that's a proper route. If you want to deny it due to the fact that it's, use your discretion and say, we don't want this project for whatever reason, deny it. But please don't deny it for lack of information, because that just makes us come back to you, probably. And I don't think you want to waste more of your time. If the end goal is you guys don't want this project, I got thick skin, I can deal with it. Just deny it. and then just, it's the end of it. So, that's that's my 2 cents. I hope I'm not too blunt, but I just try to move this thing along.
Just for the record on that, you're not violating your own bylaw in that situation. I would say it's more frequent than not if the commission is denying something, they're denying it based on lack of information. So unless Jay has anything there that he feels that that's not correct, I think the commission, again, has these 2 options. One is request more, the other one is deny it for lack of information.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried about denying for lack of sufficient information. I guess the question is do you want to make a hard and fast request that this applicant provide all the information that Beals and Thomas would need to do their analysis? If they do, fine, they get kind of a full and fair opportunity. The record would state clearly that's what you asked, because you can't determine function of this feature within the resource area without it. If they choose to give that information, great, you have a hearing on it. Issue a decision, approval or denial. And if they don't, then you're back at the lack of sufficient information, plus probably adding concerns over impacts to the resource areas.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Right.
It could be both.
Right.
Brian?
I wasn't suggesting a denial. I was suggesting that we continue it so that the applicant has an opportunity to respond to the peer review. In my mind, that's the whole purpose of peer review. You submit a proposal, a project, or anything, it gets peer reviewed for people who aren't experts in the field. That's why we have peer review. And the peer reviewer said, there's missing information here. It's the responsibility of the applicant to fill in that information. They say it's all there. That's not answering the question. They have to explain to us where it is and how specifically the concerns of the peer review is being addressed. So I would suggest we continue. If the applicant decides that, look, we made our best effort, I don't know how to better explain this, then we deny it. But I want to give them an opportunity to help those of us who aren't wetland scientists understand the contrast between what they're saying is there and what the peer reviewer is saying is not there.
We have a motion. Does everybody understand?
Do we have a date on?
March 11th.
Yeah, do you want to hear from Beals and Thomas?
It's probably a
Is
good
it
idea
Matt?
if our peer reviewer wants to say
Sure.
something.
Matthew?
Yeah, I guess, excuse me, yeah, so the applicant continues to reference that, he says all the information's there. The stormwater report provided has a design for 3 surface stormwater basins, none of which are the system under the driveway. So that's what we're asking. It's unclear to us where this information is when the report provided is for 3 stormwater basins on the subdivision property, none of which are the subsurface system that's under this driveway. So I mean, if that's an easy for them to answer, we'd love to hear it. It's just not, I'm just trying to get across, it's not clear to us how one correlates to the other.
I don't think so. I think just pick a date to,
He's got his hand up, but I want to be clear that
I understand
I want the
his hand is up,
applicant to respond to it in writing, not just orally in the meeting right now.
Exactly.
It needs to be in writing.
Yeah.
And so
But
that's
I know
what
he has
we'll
his
be
hand
asking.
up, so.
Right. Yes, I see your hand, Mr. Haney.
Yeah, hi, can you just give me the list, I mean, what exactly you want? Do you guys want the tree coverage that he recommended, that Bill and Thomas recommended? You
we
want us to
did,
put
we
the
did
orange
send you
line on the
the,
plan?
we did send you a copy of the peer review report.
Yeah, but that's his recommendation to you, but I want to make sure that the commissioner is adopting his recommendations.
Yes. Yes.
We want you to address the concerns the peer reviewer rose in the report.
All right, do we have?
Actually,
any-
I don't address
Well,
it.
no.
I agree.
So I make a motion to extend it, to continue to March 11th.
Second.
There's a motion to continue this to March 11th, and it's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. I'm going to continue this to March 11th. Mr. Haney, you'll have a chance to respond to the questions in the peer review.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Cote. All right. move to section B.
Yes.
I'm going to now reopen a hearing for the request for amendment for the proposed installation of a sediment forebay and rain garden within the 200-foot riverfront area of Smellbrook. This is at 1 Royson Drive, formerly 20 Marion Drive. Could you just give us a briefing on that, Matt?
Yeah, the applicant agreed to continuance to, is it January 28th we were going to do on that one? Sorry, I had the wrong one in front of me.
That's okay. The applicant seeks...
Just sorry, as a follow-up on that, we needed additional money for the peer review. We got the check from, we got a bank check from the applicant late last week, and we just got Horsley Witten Group going on that today. So they should have their updated report, hopefully within about a week, and we'll have that good for the 28th.
Well, I haven't heard a motion yet to continue to the 28th. Do you have a comment on this?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky. I'm a local environmental and land use lawyer representing Royson Properties LLC, and we were requested by staff to request this continuance to allow more time for this process to go forward. We were actually hoping to do both matters this evening, but again, we were asked to request a continuance, so we're doing our best to comply.
Okay. Thank you. Continuance has been requested. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we continue this to January 28th.
Is there a second? Second. There's a motion, and it's been second to continue this matter to the 28th of January. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving on, yay, to 127 Wapping Road. I'm going to reopen a hearing for the notice of intent for the proposed demolition of a single-family house and cesspools and construction of a new single-family house with a septic system, retaining walls, site grading and paving, all within the 100-foot buffer to bordering vegetated wetland and the 200-foot riverfront area to a perennial stream at 127 Wapping Road. Could you give us a briefing on this, Matt?
Sure. Updates include a dry well for roof runoff shown on an updated site plan. Conservation posts were located on the aerial photo plan as requested, and background information on phosphorus reduction in geomat systems. And I went back and forth with Pat a little bit on the phosphorus information, and at this point, the applicant provided information on successful phosphorus reduction in geomat systems and showed that this system will have even more sand beneath it for filtration and absorption than the test systems did that were part of the information that was sent. The system as designed should significantly reduce the phosphorus load coming from the residents as effluent. And we already discussed that the septic system now treats nitrogen, TSS, fecal contamination through reduction in CBOD, and now phosphorus. Dry wells were added for roof runoff, and conservation posts are shown. I noted that the commission should determine whether the mitigation is sufficient to outweigh any detrimental impacts to the wetlands or interests they provided for. You know, I think at this point they've dealt with everything the commission has asked. The only issue that hasn't been dealt with was the trees, but they've been discussed several times in the meetings.
Are they on the plan? Tree replacements shown on plan?
I don't believe we ever had tree replacements shown on the plan.
I would like that. That was also discussed at the last meeting.
Could be added after the fact. Could make a motion contingent on
Yeah,
that.
no, absolutely, yeah.
You guys can speak to that if that, yeah, if that's a problem, you
Talking about the two big
could
trees
speak
out
to it.
front?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
They're on the plan.
No,
they're
she
gonna be
means wood
removed.
replacement
I want
trees.
the replacement trees shown on the plan so that they will be
Okay.
planted, held accountable.
Thank you. Just identify yourself for the record, please.
David Gassy, 127 Wapping Road.
Okay.
As to the trees, we're just going to leave them. We didn't know it was going to be this much of a problem, so we'll just leave them and let them do their thing.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's any issue, if anything starts to come up with it, definitely just get in touch with my office.
Right.
It is obvious that they're not in perfect health.
Right.
They could be fine for another 100 years.
Right.
But you could maybe talk to an arborist about supportive care if you're not going to take them down.
Okay,
You sure?
yeah.
All right. Any members of the public present or online who want to comment on this? All right. Are we in agreement to close the hearing, or is there a need to continue it to will out further information?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
So just for
Matt?
for the record, we've done this so many times that I don't remember if we went through any special conditions or anything on this.
Have at it.
No.
No.
Let-
I noted that any orders of conditions issued would note that flags 8, 12 through 15 could not be confirmed and would not be affirmed by this permit. And it should note that the A series wetland continues past A20 and the B series east of B1 because those areas were not delineated. You would put the conservation posts in the typical information we include about conservation posts remaining in perpetuity. And we typically do include information about treatment systems and maintenance. And I can kick the special conditions past Pat for review before the commission signs it at the next meeting, if they have any questions on anything like that.
Do we need to add any of the usual lawn care special conditions?
You can?
I think we decided they were just going to be on everything we did.
Definitely coastal. I don't know if we started doing them on everything,
Okay.
but it's up to the commission. I mean, we've discussed lawn a few times tonight. Obviously, lawns are detrimental impacts on wetlands when they're being fertilized.
I think we
and-
should if they're within the jurisdiction.
Do I hear a motion to
I'll make the
hearing?
motion.
Close.
Yeah.
Second.
I don't know, we're going to have a motion to approve, issue order of...
Do we have to vote on closing it first?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Do we have to vote on closing it first?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Yes, we did.
Okay, the hearing is closed. We have a motion to close the hearing. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and how about a motion to issue orders of conditions?
So moved with the special conditions.
Second.
And there's been a motion to approve it and issue orders of conditions. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. And considering what you're doing there and what was there before, mitigated, to the nth degree.
Thanks. I'll now open a hearing for the notice of intent for the proposed demolition, reconstruction of a single-family house with associated porch, walkway, gravel driveway within the buffer zone to coastal resource areas. We'll hear a briefing from you, Matt.
Does anybody want me to pull the plans up here on
Sure.
the screen? Okay, let's just do that. I'll do that while Paul gives a presentation, because this is the first hearing.
All right, Paul, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Paul Seberg from Grady Consulting, representing the applicant. We are here for the notice of intent application for the proposed raise and rebuild project at 19 Rocky Nook Avenue. Excuse me. This site consists of an existing single-family dwelling. There's a paved driveway to the north and an existing detached garage that's located in the rear of the property, which has since been removed. There's a 100-foot buffer zone associated with the top of Coastal Bank and land subject to coastal storm flowage, located to the east of Rocky Nook Avenue. The applicant is proposing to raise the existing house and construct a new single-family dwelling, which is primarily located in the same location as the existing house. The project proposes a paved driveway to the north of the house in the same location as the existing driveway, but slightly reduced in size as it goes back to the rear of the property. There's a gravel driveway proposed on the south side of the property for additional parking, with a pervious paver walkway located across the front of the dwelling. The project proposes to maintain the impervious coverage of the site with a slight reduction. But although outside conservation's jurisdiction, the project proposes to remove the detached garage and also a portion of the paved driveway, which reduces the overall impervious coverage of the site. The total impervious coverage of the property, including the area outside the 100-foot buffer zone, is 2,287 square feet, or 45.7%, and the proposed total impervious coverage is 1,923 square feet, or 38.4%, which is a 364 square foot reduction, or 7.3% reduction of the overall site. A silt sock erosion control barrier and construction entrance are proposed. And with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Do we have any questions from the commissioners? Matt, do you want to brief us on that?
Yeah, you sent some updated materials, and I have not gone back through my staff report after you did that.
Okay.
The porch out front that's proposed, you know, all impervious, right? That's a roof.
Yeah, it's a roof over the porch. It was included in the calculations as well.
We talked about ESC. The application shows erosion control across the front yard and between the dwelling and the coastal resource areas, but with a central break for a construction entrance. And I had a recommendation to show that a little differently, to show better control during construction. You did.
Right, we revised the, and it's noted on the plan there that we'll actually extend that across the site at the end of each workday, as we kind of discussed on site as well.
Also, just for the record, because I think I've received 5 phone calls or messages about it, the applicant did remove mature trees from their backyard. They were out of jurisdiction. That was confirmed back when we had the RDA filing for the demolition of the house, which then they decided not to do. They were working already on an NOI, and that ended up just being a miscommunication with the contractor that was going to demolish the building. So just for anybody that happens to be watching this or listening, there was no permit required for the removal of the trees that were in the backyard. And I wrote down a lot of likely irrelevant stuff about historic development and impervious surface. Yeah, as you pointed out, there is a slight reduction in impervious coverage within jurisdiction. Also, there is the benefit of the removal of that garage slab out back. As most of the properties on this street, just about everything from the backyard eventually finds its way out into the street and therefore the bay during a rainstorm. So any conversion of that backyard area from impervious surface to any other use, unless you're dumping a bunch of fertilizer on it, is a good change as far as the health of the bay is concerned. We talked about FEMA. You know, the FEMA map showed a flood zone coming a lot closer to the property, but that was incorrect, and based on elevation, Paul has shown it correctly. So the buffer zones are appropriately shown on this, and as far as I can see, the property meets all of the standards of WPA and KWPR. And I did note that the applicant should be aware of the potential for $300 fines to be issued every time or every day sediment-laden water or construction debris reaches Kingston Bay. All necessary steps to prevent that must be taken. That's been a pretty standard thing we've been doing on these Rocky Nook filings. And we've been including special conditions, like dumpsters being covered at all times and immediate fines being issued if construction debris reaches Kingston Bay. Sufficient erosion control at all times, immediate fines, again, if sediment-laden water reaches Kingston Bay or nearby catch basins, as they all likely lead directly to the bay. The no outdoor fertilizer or pesticide use in order to protect the health of Kingston Bay, and the crucial declining eelgrass habitat. I did note on this, and I kind of skipped past it a minute ago, you know, the proposal does appear to meet all the standards of KWPR and WPA other than the percent impervious standard in KWPR. The percent coverage is significantly higher than the 15% maximum, but the property was developed before the wetlands regs. In this case, the proposal is slightly reducing percent coverage, and the commission has not been requiring variance requests in those instances where it's already above and it is reducing. However, in the past, town council has advised that grandfathering does not exist in wetlands law, so the commission is never required to approve projects outside of the standards set by WPA and KWPR. It would be within their rights in suggesting that the applicant may want to take steps to decrease the percent impervious further or mitigate somehow. In this particular case, they are reducing impervious surface more than it shows on this, like I described, based on the fact that there is reduction occurring in the backyard there, and special condition would ensure that there isn't any fertilizer used back there. So that's all I have.
Is there any member of the public present or online who wants to comment or has a question?
I don't see anything.
Any commissioners have comments, questions on this? Nope. All right, are we in agreement to close the hearing?
I move that we close the hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
All
in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing is closed.
I move that we approve the project with the special conditions as read into the record by
Do we have a second on
our
that?
conservation agent.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So the hearing's closed and the project is approved with the issuance of orders of conditions. Thank you. So-
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
You too. Feels later than 7:52, doesn't it?
Way
Everybody's face is looking at the lines. Everybody's
Yes, it does.
wiped.
That's one of the longest nights we've had.
Yep.
You guys are conditioned for this. My head's gonna explode.
Yeah, you should.
We're halfway
Take-
through,
take a-
we're halfway through.
All right, are we?
All right, we're back to,
33 Tark Hill Road?
208
Brookdale.
Brookdale Street. Back to action items.
Okay. All right. We're back to action items. This is 208 Brookdale Avenue. Request for a certificate of compliance for construction of barn within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone and the 200-foot riverfront area. This was continued from an earlier date. What have you got to say, Matt?
The applicant agreed to continuing this to April 22nd, during which time they will work on filing a request for determination of applicability for unpermitted alterations. We have a new owner of the property, and the seller filed an RCOC, and there were outstanding issues both with the filing and with the property at large. And the new owner is working with our office on getting all the information they need to deal with that, so.
All right. Do I have a motion to continue this matter to
April 22nd.
22nd?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. All right, we're moving on to 33 Tark Hill Road. This is a request for a certificate of compliance for the construction of a single-family house and associated driveway, private septic system, utility connections, within 100 feet wetland buffer zone. Matt, you want to brief us on that?
Yeah, and for the record, I don't think there was private septic system within 100 feet, but that was part of the construction project, just
Okay.
for the record. But the applicant withdrew the request with plans to resubmit later in the year once the site is fully stabilized with vegetation. This was a situation where the developer wanted to show the new owners of the house that there weren't any major issues, but the site was finished late enough in the year that the lawn is not fully stabilized.
Okay, so-
And we didn't get that in before we made the agenda. So there it is.
All right, so it's up. All right, do we want to go to number 5 on
Yeah,
action
let's
items?
go to reorg.
Action item number 5 is reorganization of the Conservation Commission. Matt, tell us what we're doing.
We have a chair that indicated that They may not want to be the chair anymore and thought a reorganization would be a good idea. So if somebody wants to make a motion on a new chair, typically I think the way that works is whoever doesn't show up to the meeting
I was going to nominate Jim to be
is
chair.
volunteered.
Yeah, well, I think
Second.
I'd probably, I'd third that.
I spoke to Jim. He's okay with it. I did ask.
I spoke to Jim as well.
Okay.
So there's a motion to accept my stepping down from chair and nominate Jim to replace me,
Effective tomorrow.
effective
January 15th.
Great. It's a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So yay, Jim. Great.
And we need a vice chair now.
So I nominate Megan Hickey for vice chair.
Second.
I'll do that.
Will you accept?
I will.
Super. So we have a motion to nominate Megan Hickey to be vice chair, and she is awesome. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
I'll vote for myself. I think. I won't vote.
I'll vote for you. I'll vote for you twice. All right, so that's great. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you, Kalina.
And now you're up.
All right.
All right.
We're on enforcement, 1 Royston Drive,
Yeah.
23rd.
Oh, we all get night sickness. So we're on to enforcement. This is 20 Marion Drive /1 Royston Drive. So it's continued from an earlier date. Matt, can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, so we've, Attorney Brodsky and I have been in touch on this. They went out and got some quotes from environmental professionals, submitted one for my review. I kicked back some comments on things that I thought were missing based on the discussion that the commission had the last time. An update was sent a couple hours ago, and I took a quick look, and the only remaining outstanding issue was that the proposal still said they were going to show up after significant rainstorms rather than before. Have they updated that since then or no?
Chair Vendetti and everyone, good evening. Again, Adam Brodsky for Royston Properties LLC. In fact, Mr. DeMar has been attending virtually and is available to answer any questions. And I'm just going to provide a little bit more information. When we were last before you, we had discussed the LLC hiring an environmental monitor in order to resolve the outstanding issues, and I was asked to provide special conditions with that respect. I kind of took it a little bit further. I had actually worked on a project on the North Shore that resulted in an appeal to Mass DEP. That resulted in a final order of conditions which included some extensive environmental monitoring conditions. I took that information, I gave it to our proposed environmental monitor, who incorporated it into the proposal. And as Mr. Piniella said, he had some comments. I tried to turn them around quickly. I do have extra copies of the latest draft.
The latest one.
And if you need them, I'm happy to give you copies, yes?
I can pull it up here if you want to. We can.
I would like a copy.
Do you want to go through it on the screen?
I'd like to
or-
see a copy as well.
Okay.
This isn't the.
No,
Oh.
he's got the latest, this is the early.
Thank you.
All right, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we had originally proposed using Strong Tree Engineering that developed a very similar proposal. Unfortunately, right before we were submitted, we were told that they had a conflict of some sort, so we had to find another certified consultant, and so we're proposing using Green Seal Environmental. The estimated cost of the scope of work in the proposal is $8,000. That will not include any additional work, including additional visits that may be requested by the agent or the commission, or additional site visits. With respect to Mr. Piniella's comment, the way this is designed is that there are going to be inspections every other week during construction. So we're actually going to have an environmental monitor out there to make sure that the existing erosion controls are in place and working. And the idea is that after a defined storm event, that the environmental monitor would return to the site, observe the effectiveness of the environmental controls, and need to take, if there any remedial action need to be taken, it would be done. As far as Mr. Pinella's suggestion that there should be an additional site visit before a storm, it's very difficult to predict the sizes of storms ahead of time. We're hoping that by having inspections every other week, regular inspections, as well as any special inspections that are called for by the commission, that it would be sufficient for the environmental monitor to visit the site after the storm event to determine the effectiveness of the erosion controls. That's how we had set it up when I had dealt with this issue, again, with that other site with respect to Mass DEP.
Can we stop here and discuss this one point before we?
Yes, why don't we? Excuse me.
So I hadn't thought of that aspect of it where after a significant rainstorm, it will be good to have a look at the site and see if things have failed or shifted or whatnot. The idea from the commission's standpoint was to make sure that doesn't happen and to make sure, based on previous site performance, that somebody is out there in advance of storms where that would be likely to happen and make sure that somebody hasn't driven over erosion control, moved it, ripped it, opened up a whole area of dirt and not stabilized it, like those sorts of things. So I don't know if we're gonna get this thing perfect, but I could definitely see a situation with bi-weekly where that does happen in advance of a large rainstorm and we get another big release and we find out about it after the fact because the professional goes there and finds that. I think what we were looking for out of this was something where it's robust enough that if the property owner follows all the recommendations here, they're gonna stay out of the commission's hair on this, and the commission is not going to be tempted to take any further enforcement action, including revocation of a permit. And I think this might be okay, but we might end up in a situation where we have another large release here, large being, you know, a relative term, but another significant release here where the property owner can say, well, I followed everything that you told me to do here. You know, there's still all sorts of conditions that govern the site, especially from an erosion control perspective, that the commission can fall back on. But I think no matter what we want out of this is something that's ideally going to prevent anything like that, because it's been clear that relying on the people working on the site to make sure everything is done in a way that is in line with the conditions hasn't happened. So in that sense, I don't know if bi-weekly would be sufficient enough if we're doing after rainstorms. I don't know if there's a way to, I don't know. You make a valid point on the after, so I don't know necessarily. My vision of this was bi-weekly was fine. Initially when we talked about this, we said weekly, but bi-weekly is probably fine when you include being there in advance of a forecasted large storm. Could you miss something in that situation too, and what was supposed to be a quarter-inch storm turns out dumping more water than was expected? Sure. But I don't necessarily know at this point how to make this better with that in mind.
I would also remind that we have provision that at the request of the agent that there can be a site inspection. So, you know, if Mr. Pinella is concerned about a particular storm event, he picks up the phone, he calls us, calls the environmental monitor, and the environmental monitor is obligated, you know, under this proposal to inspect. We hope that there'll be reasonable use of that get out of jail card free. This is not an inexpensive proposal. Having said that, we understand that there are compliance issues here, and I'll just say that a pound of flesh may be due, and we're trying to come up with this reasonable balance of running a construction project and providing assurances to the commission that we're appropriately addressing erosion controls.
Yeah, and Kalina, if I may, that is one, I don't want to say concern of mine, but I like, you know, and having that in there, I think was a the right thing to do, that if the conservation agent says that a site visit is needed, then a site visit is needed. I do not take that lightly, but it does also put, I think, a lot on me to make sure that I'm tracking that sort of stuff and also using that in the right way. But maybe that is enough, maybe, you know, provided that I am consistently tracking the weather and thinking about One Royson Drive in the back of my head, then that may be the best we can do on this. I did note that having contact information for the lead, the primary inspector and the alternate inspector by email and ideally by cell phone, if they're willing to do that, would be the best way to go forward with that, rather than me sending an email out and it getting lost in somebody's spam, and then nobody inspects the site, and then we have a release, and then it's...
We're happy to provide that information. And again, we made sure we selected people with the appropriate qualifications. They're all certified. I can't do this off the top of my head at 8 o'clock in the evening. I knew what the they're certified in erosion controls.
And I did review, you know, the company and the names on the list, and it seems good to me.
In your comments, did you ask about a baseline site walk?
Yes, that is in there now.
That's in there.
It's in there now?
Yes.
So you have task 1, project setup, kickoff meeting, and review of project documentation. The company will review all the plans and permits, and they'll coordinate an on-site meeting with me, where we can go over all of that. And then it does specify that they're going to do field inspections on a biweekly basis during construction and after significant storm events. And they define that as, well, it says when expected rainfall, but I guess that might be, in this case, modified to actual rainfall meets or exceeds 2 inches in a 24-hour period, or when rainfall intensities may exceed 1 inch per hour. We will be available to conduct inspections when requested by the client and the Kingston Conservation Agent. These inspections will be conducted while construction is ongoing and will end when all site surfaces are stabilized. And then it talks about written reports. It says they will write monthly reports on the status of erosion control activities, email them to the client and myself. And I did specify that they should also be, if they determine that corrective action is recommended or required, they should notify myself and the property owner by email, and if we want any other method, within 24 hours. So I thought that also was appropriate. And there was another part where, under further service and payments, on the second to last page, it says, should the agreement or schedule need to be amended due to an observed need by the conservation agent or commission for more frequent field inspections and/or reporting, a consultation and/or commission meeting will be scheduled to discuss such need.
Oh, thank you.
So my, I guess, question on this, assuming that everybody is okay with the way this is all written now, would be for Jay in procedure. I sort of emailed him earlier saying that there's already a special condition in the original orders of conditions requiring an environmental monitor for erosion control, or requiring an erosion control monitor. Do we need to issue an enforcement order on this, or can this be considered part of these orders of conditions, and this agreement to hire can be considered binding in some way, and if not, we can pick up enforcement again if they don't? Or do we have to go through the process of writing out enforcement orders on this?
I kind of doubt we have to get that formal, so if this is kind of an interim step, sorry. If this is kind of an interim step, obviously, I think we have an NOI out there, and you can maybe bake this into that at that time too.
That was a request for amendment, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if the idea is that this is, we need something to make sure this is applicable right now, in advance of that, is that the question?
Just always thinking about, no offense to the applicant or representation, but just always trying to put the commission in a situation where somebody can't go, oh, that was great, they didn't actually require it, and then don't do it.
Well, I mean.
But also trying to save my office paperwork of having to write new enforcement orders for situations where they may not be necessary. So
This is all coming in as something that's remedial with respect to the underlying enforcement order.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think that, and I'm sure Adam would be willing to do it on behalf of his client, that this is a letter from Green Seal to Lawrence DeMar. I think Lawrence DeMar, acting by and through Adam, can make this commitment in writing to the commission, you know, as a response, you know, I would like the board, the commission to vote on it.
And I guess you said EO, but there has not, just for the record, there hasn't been an EO issued on this. This was a notice of violation. So we've been doing all of this just through notice of violation. So there is no enforcement order issued on this
Okay.
particular issue right now.
All right, so if that's the case, then I'm maybe even less concerned, provided that the applicant, because you always have the option if they fall down on this and they don't show up, of issuing a formal EO. Right now, I think there's a pretty big step from them willing to fund something like this, and if they committed in writing to the commission to do it as a bridge to get us to when we could bake some of these processes into an amended order of conditions, then I think that that's fine. I think, when is January 28th is your next date? And then
That's correct, Mr. Kellerman. And again, my thinking on this was, I was actually looking for a vote approving the scope of work. The client will execute it, we'll provide a copy to the commission. And in my mind, this was responsive to the notice of violation. If you would like to incorporate it into the amended orders, I have no objection to doing that. As you mentioned, there is a provision in the existing orders having to do with an environmental monitor. You just were not satisfied with the client and the client's selection of a monitor, so we now have an independent environmental monitor specifically retained to address this issue.
Okay. Yeah, I think if Jay is comfortable with that type of a thing, then I think
I mean,
the commission could put this enforcement issue to bed pending the receipt of that signed agreement.
yeah, I think this is getting us to where we want to be. And look, I've known Adam for a long time, and if he's going to stand behind this and represent that his client's going to stand behind this, I think that's, I'm satisfied. It seems fairly imminent, hopefully. Fingers crossed that we get to an order of conditions soon, and we could bake in some of these specifics in there. And that way it'd be a little more permanent, recorded. And I think that this gets us through. And obviously, if they don't live up to these expectations, then we have options on the table.
Cool.
Good, cool.
Commission want to make a motion then about this, or are there any more questions about content in it?
No, just, you made the point about Larry putting something in writing, correct?
Yeah, I think that, and I'm sure they're willing to do it, you know, the next step would be like, per the commission's vote, please consider this as
That's correct. Green Seal won't start work until Mr. DeMar, on behalf of the LLC, signs and pays his money. I will provide signed copies of this to the commission if you want evidence of the payment of the...
with perhaps just a quick, you know, paragraph or so, or narrative, like per the commission's vote,
Yes.
we propose to do this.
Right, commitment, we're looking
Yeah.
at commitment.
However that may come out, I'm not dictating how you write that, but I think it's important that they have a commitment from Mr. DeMar through you, or however, that on the way to a more permanent solution, that this is going to be implemented.
Yes, sir.
Don't ever call me sir again.
So then I think
Need a motion.
we'll need a motion from someone.
Would someone
on-
like to articulate a motion?
I'm trying to think of how to word it, but.
Yeah.
Just a
So
motion.
I would move that we accept this proposal with the erosion control monitoring and reporting, along with a letter of commitment from Mr. Marr.
I have a quick question. Do you have a sense of when that contract will be signed?
I would hope that Mr. DeMar could sign the contract tomorrow and get it to me, so I can get it to you, so I can cross at least this off of my to-do list this week.
Thank you. That's on the record now. I'll second the motion.
The motion's been seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
And Chair Vendetti, thank you for serving as the chair.
It has been like so fun. We're going to move on enforcement, going on to 44 Rabbit Road. Okay, Matt, you want to update us?
Yeah, at the last meeting, the commission asked me to draft enforcement orders under WPA and KWPR, dealing with all of the outstanding issues, and have them ready for the commission to sign tonight. I did speak with the property owner by email. She said that she had not been aware of the previous meeting, which I believe was December 10th. And I shared email indicating that I had, told her about that, and then I made sure I specified this date as well. And I don't see anybody to speak to 44 Rabbit that I can tell, but I can just jump into, so the the WPA one is very bland and essentially just references the KWPR one for specifics. Be issued for work performed without a recorded order of conditions within resource areas and or the buffer zone to resource areas. Do you need me to run through all the facts or skip to remedial actions to be undertaken?
Yes.
Actions
That
to be
was, there were
taken.
2 questions.
Actions
Can't
to
say
skip.
yes.
I said no to the
We
first.
understand
You said
the
no to the
facts.
first, okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, remedial actions. Number 1, file a notice of intent for the removal of the unpermitted retaining wall and concrete driveway/parking area, stabilization of the area with vegetation, and mitigation of stormwater runoff toward the wetlands. Any rebuilding of a wall and parking area would also require filing of a notice of intent. You may choose to combine them into one filing. A filing must be received by March 1st, or daily fines of $300 will be issued. The commission can discuss any of these dates or any specifics if you like.
Got it.
2, the property contains many unpermitted structures, including those discussed above, as well as numerous sheds, a chicken coop, wood boiler, and other retaining walls. By June 1st, 2026, the property owner shall either remove these structures or get retrospective permitting for them. Number 3, the property owner shall take all necessary steps toward maintaining the buffer zone in order to avoid contamination of the wetlands or small pond. No trash or waste may be present outside of proper refuse containers with lids, particularly along the slope between the dumpster and the pond. The dumpster must be closed unless someone is actively putting trash or waste in it. No hazardous materials or chemicals, including gas, petroleum, pesticides, etc., may be stored within the buffer zone without secondary containment. The property owner has until February 1st to improve these conditions. Any evidence of violations will be met with $300 fines daily until the violation is remedied. And then number 4 is the dock. On July 29th, 2025, the commission released guidance regarding existing unpermitted docks attached for reference. It states that the commission will deem any dock in place before January 1st, 2015 to be exempt from the need for wetlands permitting unless A, the dock has been reconstructed, increased in size, or relocated since January 1st, 2015, and or B, the property has more than one dock. The remaining dock on the subject property was in place before January 1st, 2015, but was substantially enlarged between 2019 and 2021, and therefore must be permitted with the Conservation Commission. The Commission's dock guidance states that a grace period will be given for all existing docks needing permitting, where enforcement action will not be taken until after July 29, 2027. Therefore, this enforcement order is not mandating any action regarding said dock until after that date. However, due to the costs involved in filing an NOI, it may be in the property owner's best interest to include the dock in the notice of intent required above. Be aware that in its current form, the dock is larger than that allowed by Kingston's wetland protection regulations. I did note on the first one that for the commission to beware of the EO-OOC timeline issue that has come up on some long ago properties where orders of conditions issued for an enforcement issue can result in that enforcement issue never being dealt with. So where we say a filing must be received by March 1st, I believe the language can be improved on that a little bit. Something along the lines of remove the unpermitted wall and parking area by June 1st, 2026, after obtaining all necessary permits, including orders of conditions from this commission. Without doing that the way that I had this written initially, the filing of a substandard NOI by March 1st would satisfy the commission's request, which would just delay things and kick things down the road. So that would be a recommendation of just swapping that language in on number 1. Instead of saying receive the filing by March 1st, you're saying remove the unpermitted wall and parking area by June 1st with appropriate permitting. I don't think Marilyn heard that.
I think that we're chatting.
I was conferring with council.
I was talking about, under number 1, I wrote March 1st for a filing, and I noted to the commission to beware of requiring a filing for an enforcement issue, where then the filing itself, regardless of its quality or completeness, satisfies the enforcement issue. So saying something like, remove the unpermitted wall and parking area by June 1st, 2026, after obtaining all necessary permits, including orders of conditions from this commission, would make it so they have to file and they have to remove it, and it's by a set date.
I have no issue with that. We do tiered requirements like that all the time. I did one just the other night in another community. The fact that permits have a lifespan unto themselves doesn't mean that you can't be specific in your orders on when they have to respond to you and when they have to then complete the work subject to the permitting. And if they give you a piece of crap filing, sorry about the language, then so be it. Then if you can't, you do your best to act on it. If they don't follow up on it, then we go to court.
Okay.
So, I mean, you should be reasonable in your timeframes and such that they can actually get through the process.
Right.
But
And that's where discussion, I guess, with the commission of these June 1st, particularly on removal of a wall and a concrete parking area, you're talking, they already do have a plan of record. So a lot of the engineering stuff is prepared, but they will need likely somebody to put the NOI filing together, then go through the approval process, and then get a contractor out there.
look, too, it's not like the only bite at the apple, too. If they came in after the filing, because then they're going to have to meet with you, and they say, look, we're going to do this. There's no way I can do it by June 1st.
Sure.
Notwithstanding, then, okay, when can you do it by, and tell us why, and
Right.
you work with them if you got them, and if it ends up being July 1st or August 1st or whatever, and you all can live with that. If they're otherwise committed to doing the work, then you talk to them about it. If they're just dragging their feet, then maybe you don't.
Okay. And it may
So-
be best in that case to keep the date as it is, because you have an engineer's letter that says the wall is not in the best of shape and is leaning towards the pond.
Right, I mean, it's measured against the interest in expediency. These dates aren't random. This is something that is what's causing wetland violations continuously. So there's a need for some expediency, as long as you can justify that. Because if they ended up appealing an EO, then we're going to have to make sure that there's either substantial evidence or some non-arbitrary reason why we're imposing the dates we are. And as long as we can back that up, I'm always comfortable with that.
Okay. And then procedurally, if there's no other discussion or anything, then the commission could vote to ratify these enforcement orders right now.
Right.
And then sign them.
So this isn't a ratification, this is an issuance thing.
Okay, but I thought as
Right, you
part of
haven't
that,
issued it,
No, I have not issued them myself.
So this is an issuance, so
Okay.
it's, ratification happens when you issue on your own.
Okay.
And then they come in at the next meeting to ratify.
Okay, so they don't need to
This is
ratify
them
this at
saying-
all if they issue it
This is
themselves.
them saying, Matt, get out there and issue this thing.
Okay.
So this is their EO, not yours. Ratification is the process that happens when you see something in the field
Right.
and have to stop it, and then at the next meeting, they ratify.
So in this case, they do a vote to issue it.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
We good?
I said any other questions?
No?
No? If we have no other questions, then I think the commission could, somebody could make a motion to issue those enforcement orders.
Do you have a motion to issue
So
those
moved.
enforcement orders?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? They may be issued.
Yeah, we can do that after the, don't go anywhere after the meeting, we have to get you to sign this.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome. Nice to see you all.
Nice to see you, Jay. You ready? The last order under enforcement is 41 East Ave. What do you got to say, Matt?
Just give me 1 second. So while I'm fumbling around for my information here, 41 East Ave was a recent filing, and an older filing, but a recent NOI filing for construction of a house. And during the construction of the house, the tree at the corner of the lot was to be protected, which it was. It was wrapped in a snow fence. The owners of the property came to me and said that they wanted to prune the tree mainly for getting it away from where the house was to be built. There was at least one branch that was based on the plan, looked like it was going to be right up against the house or over the house. So, wanting to prune it out of the way before construction starts. So I asked for an arborist letter. They sent in an arborist letter. The arborist's letter read, and it was from White Horse Tree, and they are in the crowd tonight, that he recommended light canopy pruning for storm readiness and pruning of one lower branch that was headed towards the house. I thought that met, it was under a threshold that would require permitting, so I felt comfortable with that. I told them, you're fine to go ahead. I said, if anything goes beyond that recommendation, then you'll have to come in for, you'll have to talk to me about that and see if it needs more permitting. As with anything on Rocky Nook, if you cut a tree or do something, we will get a phone call, and we did, and we had a walk-in, and I explained that they had a permit. I explained what the permit was for, and they said, no, this is more than that, you need to go look at it. And we went out and we looked at it, and it was my feeling when I got there that it had already looked like it was beyond what we had approved. And I'll read through the staff report a little bit, but basically the way I handled it was I talked to the staff, and then I talked to the property owners who came out, and then I told the property owners, I'm going to remove myself from this. I'm going to put this in front of the Conservation Commission, and if they think it's a violation, then we can move forward from that. If they think it's fine, then it's fine. After that, the arborist, Ross and Randlett from White Horse Lawn and Tree, got in touch with me, and we went out and had a site visit where we talked about sort of where they were coming from on it. Ultimately, we both agreed. We don't think the tree's gonna die or anything. It's not like, so much was cut in this tree that it's not going to recover, but it was more than what was agreed upon. And this was on December 17th. I'll skip past what I've already rambled through. So the specifics were crown cleaning for storm preservation and pulling back lower right side of canopy to reduce encroachment on future construction. Then, so when we got to the site, they had already, cut a handful of limbs and chipped them. We could see, at least one really large cut ultimately may have been the branch that was leaning towards the house. Where the house is going to be is a little hard to tell. I stopped work and talked with the crew. Before the property owners got out to the site, one of the members of the tree crew, I sort of said, like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you cutting these? And he said, for view purposes. As soon as the owners got there, I mentioned that, and they emphatically disagreed with that.
I would take a lot to take your test.
But you can't, sorry.
Just hold on
Sorry,
one
but you
second,
can't-
one
you can't
person
jump
at
in.
a time.
I
You'll
had
have
to
your-
stop.
you'll have your turn.
Mine's been you in for
And it's not your turn yet,
Okay.
so you'll have your turn.
Okay.
Sorry to be chair for you, but,
It's all right.
so they emphatically said that's not what we were doing here, absolutely not. And that it was only, the cutting because it was a danger to the house, or that they were planning to build, a danger to that structure, and also because some of the sections were dead. They were worried because a similar tree had recently fallen nearby and destroyed a fence, so they didn't want something similar to happen, which, was understandable. There was one more, so there were a couple of limbs that were cut that were pretty obvious to me that they were cut because they were hanging out over the coastal bank. And they had the rope tied around another one, and I asked them, like, why are you cutting that last one? And they said it was the tree crew member, again, not the property owner, had said it was requested to be cut in order to improve view. Again, the property owner said that's not the case, but that they thought it didn't look visually appealing. It was going to make the whole thing off balance, having a low branch out over the coastal bank. So I told them to stop. I said, you're not cutting that branch. They stopped completely. I told them, you're more than welcome to cut some more of the dead small branches that are up in the canopy and all that, and they just didn't feel comfortable with it. They said, no, we're going to stop. If the Conservation Commission isn't happy with what's going on here, we're not going to go any further. So again, it's clear to me that there was more cutting than was described in the letter. I feel completely comfortable stopping work and not cutting any further, but I just felt like rather than send a notice of violation out on that, we often do come into some gray area on things like this where, you know, they didn't cut the tree down, but if you go a little bit further down on, I don't think it's East Ave at that point.
I didn't hear you,
It's
pardon me?
Rocky Nook Ave, you'll see a tree on somebody else's property that has been limbed up to the point that it's like a lollipop. And it's very clear in that case down the street that that was done so that people could see underneath it or be underneath the tree in that situation. And you don't want that to happen on something like this. So I thought it was important to bring to the commission. I did meet on site with, like I said, the arborist who wrote the original letter. And, you know, he did say that their tree crews are often asked by homeowners to cut additional parts of trees than those he recommended. It does often happen to improve view. He didn't specify that that's what happened on this site, but it's entirely possible. You know, he considered that cutting that central limb was likely, that was the big cut that I was talking about, was likely necessary for storm damage prevention, but agreed that the cutting of the 3 limbs pointing towards the water was likely not necessary for safety or tree health. We didn't really speak to the health of the tree overall, other than that we both felt like the tree is going to survive. It's not a situation where this tree is going to die now, and therefore there could be some bigger enforcement issue on the site. It just appears that more was cut than was agreed upon, and more was cut than was likely necessary for the health of the tree. In fact, more could have been cut from the tree in other areas to improve the health, whereas some of the things that were cut likely were not, you know, towards the health of the tree, but likely a detriment. So, we have pictures from before and after from Google Street View, things like that, but I've sent all that around. You've seen it. I can put stuff up on the board if you want. Otherwise, up to the commission. And more than welcome to hear from the property owner, hear from the arborists are here.
Ms. Ewing, would you just identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Ben Ewing.
Yes.
I live on 41 East Ave.
Thank you.
I've been in Rocky Nook off and on for 30 years. I'm here with my wife Jewel and my neighbors Bonnie and Ray.
Thank
Tebow.
you.
So I appreciate you guys sticking around this long. First of all, I love trees. I grew up climbing them. I continued with my children climbing them, and I've placed every one of my 7 grandchildren in the notch of that tree. And I have pictures on my phone. I was going to print them out, but I ran out of ink with the pictures that I printed. So that tree was never going to be harmed. As a matter of fact, when we started this project 8 years ago, we were, we were required to make sure that that tree was not harmed in any way with any of the construction or anything. So as the project went on, we went from one foundation to another, and every time we did a foundation, it didn't work out. And now we finally have settled on what's called a micropile foundation, which is very it's as old as the Leaning Tower at Pisa. It could fix that. They use it in skyscrapers. It can handle any load. It's really a marvel. However, it requires a drill to be brought on the property and to be put around the property, and it's high in the air, and it drills down into the bedrock, and it's very neat, very clean, very good for the environment and the bay and our property. However, the branches that would eventually be into our family room in that corner, that is the question in corner, they couldn't have set up to drill the necessary pylons on that corner of the house, let alone be able to build it. So they require us to come in and level, and everything has to be just right for this drill to drill this micro, which, little tiny drill all the way down the ground. So finally, now that we've got to the place after 8 years that we're going to build the house, I came to Matt and Georgiana. We had a lovely meeting. These guys are great. I don't know who that was back there, but they've been nothing but fantastic the whole time. Really super. You need to get an arborist, and you'll need to follow exactly what he says. And I said, well, we want the tree to be healthy, of course. I love trees. But these 3 branches in particular that all came off of that one main larger shoot, if you will, it was one big shoot with 3 that stuck out over the property, had to come off. And really, ultimately for me, I don't want a branch falling on my house. I don't want one falling on my dog or one of my grandkids or one of my kids or a neighbor or anything else. So naturally, we wanted to do what was best for the tree. So the arborist advised the crown needed to be thinned out some so that, I guess, so high winds wouldn't push it over or whatever. There were somewhere in between 189 and 194 little shoots sticking out everywhere. And I guess they harm the tree, they take away from the tree. So those were all cut out. And I think there were 5 or 6 branches cut when Matt was, his day was interrupted and he had to come halt the production, or not production, the opposite of production. But anyway, so I warned the tree guys that there's going to be some activity because it's Rocky Nook, as you said. I didn't know it would be so fast, that it would happen so quickly. We had agreed to pay over, as you can see, over $2,000 to make the tree as healthy as possible so that it would live, so that it wouldn't drop branches. You can see the house next, that picture there of that gigantic limb that fell is the house north of me on East Ave. It's the house next up to me. If that would have fallen on their house would have been smashed. No one got hurt. It fell between the 2 houses. It was a miracle. They were very lucky it happened that way. But it just shows you those 2 trees were both planted by the town at the exact same time. They're both the same age. It could happen. So that's why I was concerned. So, Mr. Arborist, please tell me this tree's not going to crush my house or anything. Well, these branches have to go. So, like I said, I was okay once those branches were, they could have stopped there. But the health of the tree is important too for the future of everything. So, it was very frustrating for me to pay $2,200 to get, I don't know, you'd have to tell me a quarter of the work, half the work, whatever, done. And now whoever yelled so loud that made Matt come down ultimately hurt the tree that I assumed they were there trying to protect, which makes no sense at all. So I'm a little concerned with if something happens down the road that I'm going to be liable for the town's tree because I'm the one who paid to have it not corrected, not saved, not made into a healthier tree. Because somebody yelled that thought they were doing a good thing when they didn't know what they were doing. They thought we were cutting the tree down. We're not cutting the tree down. We're just creating a little bit of space. So I'm worried about liability on me now. And I'm also wondering who's going to pay to have the balance of the work done. Because I don't think it's fair that I should have to pay again to have the tree ultimately corrected to where I already paid to have it done.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Pardon me?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure, of course.
Did you guys ask the crew to cut any branches beyond what was agreed
Absolutely
upon
not.
with the...
And I'll take a lie detector test, and it kind of bothers me. That's why I got upset. It's gossip to say that guy was not telling the truth. I never said anything about we need that down for our view. As a matter of fact, if the tree is here and the branches in question are here, the house sits here Our view is all out this way. We have a panoramic view of everything. All the way north, all the way south, there's nothing, that tree is not gonna bother our view. Now, if there was a window in the corner of the house here, then it would look into that tree, but there isn't gonna be a window because it's our family room and that's where the TV's going.
So for the
So
commission,
there
all
was
I can
never,
do
I
is-
never said anything, I'm sorry to shout, but I couldn't
fine.
hear half the people tonight and, you know, damn, I've been here forever, so it's like, my turn.
Yeah.
So I feel a little bit like Forrest Gump at the White House, I really do. I've had to pee for a long time and, you know.
All right. Matt?
So all I can do is report on what we see and hear. I obviously have nothing against you guys, so I'm not gonna like show up and say, and make something up. So all I can do is report on what they said when I got there and let the commission do what they feel about it. The bottom line, just for a second, is like, because I kind of just absorbed everything that he said there, and he's right in that the tree did not get finished pruning in terms of removing death from the canopy, but the reason for that was because of two things. One was I got a notification that more cutting was occurring than we thought we had allowed, and the second was that there was more cutting than what we had allowed.
That's right.
It's very clear, so the biggest cut.
Excuse me,
No,
so clear is
The
up
biggest,
there.
the biggest cut,
One person
Please,
at a time.
the
please.
biggest.
You need to wait,
The
please.
biggest
Would you
cut,
please read this?
let me
Can you
finish.
Read what it says on
The biggest-
Just hold on,
The
Mr. Ewing.
biggest cut there, I can't determine what that was from. That may have gone towards the house. That may have, and I believe White Horse also said that they believe that that one either was going towards the house or may have been a cut that they would have made for the stability of the tree. But it is clear there were several main limbs going out the back over the coastal bank that were not part of what was approved to be cut. They weren't part of the arborist letter. So I can't make the case that they told anybody to do that. That's not what I'm doing. But what I can do is tell you what we saw and heard when we got to the site. And that was one of the employees of White Horse saying that multiple branches there were being cut for view.
And again, whether he said it or not, what you witnessed, if I'm hearing you, is that there was more cutting than there should have been.
Correct. It's
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. That's it. So that's our issue. There was more cutting than should have happened.
Yeah, and then it becomes a matter of, I guess, for the commission, of threshold, right? So for me, always in my office, everything is a matter of threshold. We don't take enforcement action on everybody, even though it might sound like that to some people sitting in this room sometimes, like we're just throwing everything at anybody. There are a lot of situations that I might look at as staff and go like, I'm not touching that one. I don't think that reaches a threshold of, you know, like I sent you an example from another town of an enforcement order being sent out for a lawn statute or something, you know, like, there's a lot of ways you can go down the rabbit hole of enforcement, and unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, we don't have time for that, and we don't do that. So everything's always a threshold issue. So when I said, yes, I have no issue for that, this is not something that should require a permit. We have a letter from an arborist that it's for health. It's clear that there's a branch that's going over and encroaching on where the house is going to be. It's better for the tree to prune that back than it is to let the construction crew come in or the drill crew come in and butcher them and you know, break the limbs in half. But ultimately, more work was done. Now, if that work had been proposed, would it have been approved? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, if it was, we want to cut these 3 or 4 limbs on the side of the coastal bank, and there's no valid reason why those are going to go, then I'm probably not going to say yes to that. I'm going to say file an RDA. Let the commission make a determination on that. I'm not going to approve that under administrative review or as that doesn't require a permit at all. So I think now the commission's in the exact same position. You have a situation where it's clear that more was cut than was pitched to me from a letter from a certified arborist, and the only reason why it would matter whether it was done for view or not would be in how the commission views the intent. Otherwise, there was something that was done that was more than it was supposed to be. Does it meet the threshold of something that should have been permitted or not? That should be taken into account, and that's it. It's not something that the commission really has, you know, you're not gonna like make them file a restoration plan for something like this. It's a tree that more was cut on it, and myself and the arborist agree that the tree's probably gonna be fine. Like, it just went a little too far and was questionable from my standpoint in terms of whether I would have approved that I think I wouldn't have approved that because I don't think there was good justification for it. I think those branches were alive, and the imagery that we found on Google and previous site visits indicates that they were all alive on the back of the tree, so there was no reason to cut them. So it's up to the commission how you want to deal with those things.
I think I want to hear from Mr. Ewing. He had something else he wanted
Yeah,
to say.
as a final thought, I appreciate it all, Matt. I understand. I completely understand. I've been here all night. I've seen it live. So, however, we recommend crown cleaning for storm preservation and pulling back lower right side of canopy to reduce encroachment on future construction. As far as I can tell by the tree, that's all that happened. In your letter to me from Georgiana, we've received your certified arborist letter concerning the basswood tree at 41 East Ave. Based on the letter, you are all set to begin tree pruning described in the letter proposal only. Any work beyond that will require a permit. Perfect. I'm fine with all that. I thought there were very few branches cut. I don't think we exceeded this at all. It's the only limbs that came off were on the lower right-hand side. As a matter of fact, when all the leaves are back on, the tree's going to look more balanced now because that lower right-hand section that was going into our house was a big blob that stuck down there because there's no telephone wires where they had to prune them off for the years. So that's the only thing. I don't know what you're saying. Excuse me. I don't know what you're talking about too many going on the coastal side. Now, however, if it's that important of a matter, it's a very simple process. And I'm about 100 years old, so I know these things. You take ribbons and you put them around the limbs that you want to cut off. And the ones you don't want to cut off, you don't need the ribbons. Or you can do it the other way. You can, because you don't want to make a mistake. You don't want to cut the wrong ones. So, but you have to be very clear. But that's all you have to do is say, okay, this one comes on, this one comes on, this one comes on. If you cut any more than these three with the ribbons, that's it. You're going to get a big trouble in a meeting and have to spend all night there and listen to all this stuff.
In fairness,
It's so simple.
hey, it's my turn now. In fairness, that's on you as the applicant. That's not on me.
It's not.
I did exactly what you said.
I don't have to go out there and flag your tree. I'm talking right now. You're not going to talk over me. It's not my job to go out and flag all of your stuff, and there's no talking from out there. You're welcome to come up here and when it's your turn and speak up there. It is not my job. I do not have time to go out and flag every branch. You heard something earlier. We talked about tree removal, and we recommended a site visit with the commission and the arborist. In this case, it didn't appear that was necessary. We had a letter from the arborist. That letter was not followed. We have pictures that show that. We have an arborist that was there that saw that. There were multiple branches cut going out over the coastal bank. The house is not out on the coastal bank in the ocean. The house is next to it on the right side, and there was more than that cut, and that's a fact.
Would you like to just identify yourself for the record, ma'am?
Julie Ewing, property owner.
Okay.
It just seems that we did the process recommended, and it's not so clear cut. It's sort of an opinion. Did we cut too much? Did we not? Did we save? We did it this way so that we wouldn't end up doing anything to harm the tree, doing anything against this permitting. So when you say to us, you came out, but you wouldn't have even come out. So you're basing this. We had to pay for the tree to be half pruned and taken care of. And one loud person who came into you sent you out to shut it down. So we're honoring that process? We thought we were doing the correct way. We really were not saying, oh, now we got this. We're going to take this all the way down. So we knew that there would be someone going to shut it down because we've been trying to build for 9 years, and we knew what was going to happen. That's why we were shocked that there was no way. The people that were cutting the tree were just like, I can't keep going. And they had all their big equipment, and we knew we were going to have to pay.
Right.
for the equipment to be out there, for the job to be half done, and this woman that came in shouting, and it's just her opinion, they're cutting the tree down, they're taking too much off. So you come to the site and you have no, like, is there not a how could there have been a better process? Because here we are.
Can I speak to
The
this now?
tree-
Let me
the
answer
tree-
what you've given to me so far,
Okay,
please.
so,
Can I?
well, just to end,
Okay.
the tree, we can't pay any more money to have it finished, and there it sits. And I think that if we brought in all of Rocky Nook, I'm afraid they would side with us and say that the tree is on your property. Conservation said that it's your job to oversee it. You were, it's just a matter of opinion that we weren't following what you said, and now we're stuck. Do you build that's a lot of money to try to build a house underneath something that we thought was going to feel good and secure, and now here we are. So where do we go from here? I don't know. But yeah.
Let Matt
I'll
address
just
it.
speak to some of that. So there's multiple things there, right? Yes, I got a phone call about tree cutting there, and when I got the phone, I walk-in. And when I got the walk-in, I went like, okay, I should go look. I didn't want to go look. I had other stuff that I was supposed to be doing. I was under timelines to get things done, and I said, let's go look. Let's at least do our due diligence. So yes, that got us out there. If I had shown up there and more cutting hadn't been done than what was approved, then I would have left.
Please stop.
I would have left, and I would not have stopped work.
What are you basing that on?
One person at a time, please. Just hold on. Just hold on.
The more that's cut, though.
I can't, I'm not gonna go like this tonight anymore. I can't, and I can't take it from you.
Right.
All
Do you want to
right.
hear from the arborist? Do you want to hear from the arborist?
I'm going to have to
Would
ask.
that be helpful?
I'm
I
going
can't
to.
explain myself if I
Excuse
get- I
me,
can't
let
get
me
talked to.
address this. I'm going to ask you to sit down for a moment to collect yourself, because I understand you're upset. So have a seat, and the arborist is here. Please come on up.
May I ask, is the arborist the person who cut the tree?
No.
There's
You'll have
the
to be up
crux
at
of
the
problem.
podium they can't hear you online. Can I just briefly
And,
finish what
yeah,
I was
and
going
before,
to say? It'll take me 2 seconds.
identify yourself for the record, and then before you speak, we'll have Matt finish his comments.
Wherever you want, yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just, and again, I try to be up here and just answer everybody's questions, because again, I have nothing against anybody in this town that's doing anything. I look at every situation based on thresholds and the regulations. So I got out there, I saw that more cutting had taken place than what was on that arborist letter and what I had agreed to, and we have photo documentation of that, and that's why I stopped work. I also did tell them they could continue cutting the dead wood that was at the top that was small stuff. They weren't comfortable with that. That's not on me. I tried to allow that to go forward, and I understand, I always understand everybody spending money on things and things costing more money for people. It's never my intent. Thirdly, had I not come out there, more cutting would have happened, and I'm still gonna be out on that site. There's an open order of conditions on this property. I'm going to be there. So the fact that somebody called me in that moment did mean that I stopped work, including stopping that final branch from being cut that's not hanging over where the house is intended to be or permitted to be. So it almost would have been worse in that aspect, because I still would have been there. I likely still would have brought that in front of the commission for an enforcement review, but more would have been cut. So I understand the concerns. This is how I chose to handle it. I didn't issue a notice of violation and bring it right to the commission. I just wanted to have you guys determine, is there actually something that you would consider a threshold level violation here or not? And that's where we're here, so.
Would you like me to speak?
Yes, please identify yourself for the
Yes,
record.
I'm Rostin Randlett. I'm a certified arborist. I'm the president of White Horse Lawn and Tree. I've worked in this area for 40 years in Plymouth and in Kingston, and I started out mowing lawns, and now we do a lot of other things. My son is here with me. He's becoming an arborist as well and going to be taking over the business. So I just made a couple little notes just so I try to be kind of concise. On December 17th, we did give our crew the notes and the letter that we wrote up, and we tried to be very thorough and clear, and Mr. Pinella reviewed them, and he agreed that it was clear. We did thoroughly communicate with the crew. I thought the crew understood. They definitely did more than what I had intended on the letter. I can't speak to how that came about. I don't really I'd like to get to a peaceful resolution. I feel really bad that it's come to this. It should be, pruning trees should be something that's peaceful and great, and as they were saying, at the end, you want to be happy and you're protecting the tree. I mean, we're White Horse Lawn and Tree, and we do plant health care. We're not White Horse Tree removal. There's plenty of people that can do that. So I am not concerned at all about the health of the tree. We're well below the threshold of what a tree can take for pruning. And there is more pruning that really, it would be nice to do. But when duress comes up and people are having conflicts, we have to hit the pause button, because people do assume you're cutting a tree down, and I'd rather have like clear marching orders instead of just going ahead saying, read the letter, get away from me. And Mr. Pinello has been nothing but, he's been great with us. I mean, he communicated right away with email and phone calls. We were always able to get a hold of him. We came out, we arranged a date to meet, and he brought his assistant with him, and he, in a very factual way, we talked about the arboricultural practices and the health of the tree. And I will say, though, I wish they hadn't cut a couple of those limbs. I can't speak to exactly how they were growing, because you can look at a stub this way, but who knows which way it was really going to be going. I do think it actually will help a little bit for the wind loads on the tree, but again, they were down pretty low, so it probably didn't matter that much one way or the other. I do know that my foreman, who did more than I would like to have done, I know he does have good intentions, and he is talented in the sense that he doesn't do destructive cuts to trees. I mean, if you look at the cuts, the cuts are proper. They just weren't the ones that I had instructed him to make. We have written a formal letter of warning to this foreman. He will no longer be on any conservation jobs, and because I can't have this happening. I mean, we're here to be part of the community, not to cause duress. I mean, they have a project they've been trying to get done for 10 years. You all certainly have other things to do than sit here and watch me talk about cutting a branch on a tree. I mean, we do this every single day with multiple crews, and we do plant health care. I mean, it shouldn't be this complicated. And I'm sorry I got to this point. I hate seeing people upset, and I'd love to find the quickest way to a resolution. I don't know. The tree is going to be fine. That, which to me is a very important bottom line, and I'd just like to find a way maybe we could have everybody feel okay about the whole process. So I'm open to any suggestions to make that happen. So.
And I think, for the record, any branches that were in the vicinity of the new construction were cut, so I don't think there's any way now that this is hindering the development project going forward. It was simply that there were some small canopy, smaller dead branches that were left that they probably would have picked around in and cleaned those out for the health of the tree. So that's where it's at. Again, this isn't the most egregious enforcement issue ever. If I had shown up and he was making the final cut to fell the tree and saying, sorry, it was half dead, I don't know what I'd be recommending at this point, but it would be really harsh. That's not, we're not here trying to, throw things at the property owners. It's that this went further than it was supposed to. So from my point, I have to determine whether there's an enforcement issue or not. I chose not to make that determination in terms of whether there was an actual violation of the wetlands regulations, and put that on you wonderful people. So that's your job. And you have all the facts now.
All right, thank you.
At least the tree is still there. And I'm not sure if you were here when we had a very similar thing happen where a tree was completely cut by a secondary neighbor who couldn't get the view. But we were too late, it was gone. There's no bringing back a pine tree or whatever it is, of some kind of evergreen.
I was there for that, and the arborist was not as pleasant.
No, that was a
As
nasty
White Horse.
situation, yeah. Nasty. Anyway.
I think this is a teachable moment. I really appreciate your candor and your honesty about your crew.
Thank you.
Clearly, it appears that no one meant to do anything wrong, and it happened. The fact that the tree is viable now in spite of what happened to it, I think is paramount. I don't know how the rest of the commission feels about this. I would be curious to hear.
Microphone's not on.
Make sure everybody's microphone's turned on. There you go.
So, well,
I'm thinking along your train of thought that the tree's okay. It was a snafu, and I'm not sure that there's really much of an enforcement issue.
I don't think so either.
I think the only question would be going forward, if you plan to, and it doesn't sound like you are, but if you plan to do any more pruning, that it's quite definitive.
We'll be more specific, I guess.
Yeah.
In that case, you'll have them flag some stuff, I'll come
That's
out and
right.
look at it maybe, so that if somebody calls me, I can go, no. Did they cut any flagged branches? So I think if that's the way the commission's feeling, we're good. I don't think you have to make any real determination or vote on anything. If
Right.
you want to vote on it, you can vote that you don't feel that this meets a enforcement threshold, just for the record, so everybody feels more comfortable with it.
Why don't we do that for the record? Can I hear a motion?
I'm not sure what that motion would be.
Motion would be to withdraw the enforcement?
Yeah.
Recommendation.
Order on the
There isn't
table,
any
though.
order.
To
No
not,
enforcement order on the table.
I think the motion would be not to go forward with
Not
it.
to
Yeah, the
Make
motion would be to
Motion
not go
to
forward
do
with
something.
enforcement.
You don't make a motion not to do something.
Right, you have to-
No, you can't do that.
So if we put it in the affirmative, and then we can vote no. So if I made the motion to go forward with enforcement,
You could do that, and then. we
and
would
then
vote
everybody
down.
says,
I disagree. I think you can make a motion to not issue an enforcement order.
I understand what you're saying. Normally you don't make a motion in a negative.
True.
Yeah.
It can be done. I don't see why not. Under the
I don't see why not.
circumstances,
Yeah,
that's the issue.
I'm not gonna put a resistance to that. That's the way the commission wants to go.
It's after 9, somebody do something.
I just want to say that I don't think really anyone did anything particularly wrong here, including the commissioner. The idea that the commissioner needs to go around town flagging branches is honestly a little ridiculous, considering the amount of work that the office has to do. So I put that on the record.
No, and my point about the flagging was that in communicating with the person you're hiring, that you would, I've had people come out, they put the flags on what they're cutting. I didn't put flags on it. So that was the point about the flagging.
But this is, as you stated with your mic off, the best way to look at this is a teachable moment. So, nice turn of phrase, so.
Thank you.
Is that how the commissioner?
So I'll make a motion not to issue an enforcement order. That feels awkward, but.
It does. I'll second it, awkward as it may be.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I think that's, closes the matter for you.
And that's in perpetuity.
That's for this issue.
Absolutely not.
Sorry.
Not to issue an enforcement order.
Do you own a chainsaw?
Matt, God bless you guys. You guys have a tough job.
Thank you.
We enjoy it sometimes.
Ross, thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Have a good night.
And thank you very much.
Thank you for your help, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Honest man, huh?
You bet. Take care now.
Talk to that. No, I know, but that was.
We'll ask if you guys are gonna have a, excuse me, if you guys are gonna have a conversation, please leave, our meeting's not over. Okay. Thank you.
That's what I'm amazed.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you, have a good night.
Good night.
Did everyone see the meeting minutes for October 8th?
Yes.
Did everyone read the minutes?
Yep.
October 8th. Want a motion to approve?
That would be lovely, so we can go home.
Get her attention, not me.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of October 8th.
I
Do
think
I
that
have
was
a
just
motion?
happened. That is the motion.
That is a
Motion
motion.
to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes approved.
I'd like to, you do it. No, you do it.
We would like to thank you for your
Wait,
service.
stop, do it again, your mic was
Oh,
off.
gosh.
I'd like to make a motion in recognition.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion in recognition of your service as our chairperson.
Second.
with gratitude.
Well, I am gratified, thank you very much.
Second that.
We appreciate you, Lena.
Okay, thanks. And what about, do we want to?
You have to say all those in favor.
Yeah, we got to vote on being grateful.
Any opposed? Thank you. Are we done with updates?
We applied for a bunch of grants and we didn't get certain grants and we're going to apply for more grants. We'll do that later.
And we're also going to pay beaucoup attention to all this lovely enforcement stuff.
No one ever sees for your grant updates.
No one cares.
All right, we'll move right to closing remarks. The next meeting will be held January 28, 2026, starting at 6:30 PM. The time is now 9:04. Thank you, local scene, for hanging in. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks a million.